I'd like to welcome you to the March 2012 CEQ meeting. Just a quick reminder that this is a public meeting, and if anybody here is from the public and would like to address a certain item on the agenda, please wait till that time when the item is on the agenda. Let's move right along. Has anybody had the chance to check the February 2012 minutes?
I'll move them as corrected.
Yes, and I saw this, okay. Did somebody second that?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Motion accepted.
I must say it's much easier to go through the minutes.
Yeah.
I used to read all those hundreds of
Yeah.
pages.
Oh, Rich, you're just getting lazy. Come on, you didn't
No,
have
I'm just
anything better
getting
to do than read 200 pages?
And listen, you. Don't give
All
me
right,
a
no
hard
fist
time.
fights. Come on. All right, correspondence, Mike.
We do have a letter in your folder from Director Lansdale. She's here to address the issues raised. Sarah?
Sarah?
Sure. Thank you so much. We're requesting a rescheduling the next CEQ meeting from April 18th to April 16th. And the reason for that is to fit in the progression of, we're actually asking for a special meeting to be consistent with SECRA and make sure that the CEQ meeting be contiguous with the EPA legislative meeting on that same day. And the reason for the request is that this involves the Enexco solar carport project. The county is looking at alternative sites and will assert its status as lead agency from LIPA to Suffolk County, and is requesting an agenda item on the 16th to have a long-form EAF presented for your review at that time. And we're hoping that on the 16th it can also be on the agenda of the EPA committee at the legislature the same day, so that we don't lose any time.
Yeah. Will you have enough time, Sarah, to get that form completed ahead of time to all of us as members, so we get it within enough time to review it?
We're very aware that there's an April 4th deadline to have the materials to the members of the CEQ in time for that meeting.
Jim, did you want to say something?
When will the county seeking lead agency now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Currently? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with this particular project. I've maybe seen bits and pieces. Basically, this is citing of future solar projects,
Yes.
which is what I'm gathering from you.
So there were initially a series of sites across the county on county parking lots. And one of those sites, the county is proposing to swap out. That specific site is the Ronkonkoma Hub parking lot on the south side of the train station, because the county just received, through the economic development plan through Empire State Development Corporation, some funding from the state to redevelop that site and the site north of there for transit-oriented development. So the county has decided to look at alternative sites to make up that power generation at that one site.
So basically then, reading into this a little bit, you'll obviously be giving us a long-form EAF.
Yes.
And I guess you're probably looking for a negative deck at that time.
Yes.
Basically, that this won't have an environmental impact or anything like that.
The first
ahead.
the first go around of this project, when they initially reviewed it, it was a handful of sites came in with a long form EAF, and the project as a whole was neg deck. Now, one of those sites that were reviewed is no longer under consideration.
So it's just a change in plan then, basically?
It's a change in one of the
On one
sites
side.
that was previously reviewed. So
Okay.
because it wasn't covered under the first EAF, they're coming back with a new long form and looking for a neg deck, but again, it's going to be up to the review.
Might even be a
I
type
thought
2.
LIPA was a lead agency with respect to all the parking lots with the solar energy, and they issued a negative declaration on everything.
But this site wasn't reviewed.
The new site.
The new site
Yeah, and
wasn't
also-
reviewed.
Was it a programmatic or was it site-specific?
Well, it was site-specific, but
Well, that Mike then has just answered the question. This is a swapping, if you will, of sites, more administrative more than anything else in terms of paperwork.
Still have
It's,
to review the
Still
site.
have to
Yeah,
do it,
I'm-
yes.
that's where I was going to go. The site-specific aspect has to be reviewed. And they're also apparently changing lead agency status because it's county-owned property, if I'm understanding correctly.
well, it's a new site.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a brand-new site, so it wasn't covered under secret at this point in
All
time.
right, so this is a paperwork shuffle, if you will, to some degree.
Can we see a copy of the Life and Neg deck?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's upstairs because they're using it as like a basis for the new EAF, but we can get you a copy of it.
Yeah, so that the CQ is aware of
Yes,
what was
so we
done
can- yes.
under
Yeah,
secret in the
we'll-
previous
We'll send
areas.
that out with the new information when we get it.
Thank you. Okay, I just though want to ask all the members how you all feel about changing the date to, I guess, April 16th must be a Monday. How does everyone feel, Tom?
Yeah, unfortunately, I cannot be here on that 16th date, but I'd be willing to read the material and provide input to you.
Anybody else?
I won't be able to be either, but I would certainly read through the material as well in advance.
But as long as we have,
It's a Monday.
it's a Monday. How about you, Larry? Monday
The
morning?
best I can tell, I'm free today.
Same for me. I don't have my work calendar on me at the moment to look.
So what do you need, a motion to change the date?
Yeah,
I'll make a motion to change the date.
okay. anyone?
Second.
Seconded by Mike. All in favor? Motion passed. Okay.
It's not a
I won't be
special
here.
meeting, right?
No,
Okay,
No,
so
it's just a regular meeting up 2 days.
regular meeting, we're just going to move it up 2 days.
Remember, pay your
You won't be
taxes.
here, so we
Two other
need,
people, you have to
yeah.
have
we
a
need
quorum.
6.
We need 6. Okay, let's just revisit this real quickly. Tom just said he won't be here. So.
I will not be
Okay,
here.
so, but Rich,
I'm okay.
2,
I think
3, I think I'm okay, 4,
I'm not.
I think I'm okay.
5. All right, we're short 1 then.
We'd need,
Wait, Carol would make up.
oh, Kara,
Okay,
and if Dan Pickney's back.
yeah,
Yeah. It'll be spring, the flowers will be blooming, he'll be up.
okay. All right, so we'll just make the 6, all right,
Again, do we need 6 out of 9?
We need 6 out of 10.
out of 10.
Out of 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Time we doing
Same
no.
time, 9:30.
Rich?
I was just going
Where?
to, it has come to my attention that BP was doing a solar array at Brookhaven National Lab, and they have thrown the towel in on it as being not economically feasible. So I'm wondering where all this is going and whether everybody is looking into what they're doing before spending gobs of money and finding out that it ain't worth it.
Well, if I may, just speaking on my own, I believe I'm aware that BP exited that business for BP corporate reasons, which might or might not be the same worthwhileness that the county's considering for these kind of installations. I don't think it's a valid jump from one company's investment strategy to suggest that the county might not get a lot out of it from our time frame and for our own use. I don't think the
Well,
BP decision
I believe
is
the
valid.
cost of these things because of where they're being manufactured, has gone down so much that it doesn't pay for the company to keep investing in what they're doing. But, you know, I don't know what it means to the county in terms of generation of electric and savings and what have you, so, but it's something to think about.
Mike?
Speaking to the quorum issue just for a moment, we apparently need 6. Kara is going to be at Health, where'd it go? Health and Human Services, or so her legislative aide just said. But there is a reg on the books right now regarding the chair of EPA allowing a designated representative to show up. Does that designated rep have a vote? I believe so.
I'd have to check the,
But, if that makes our quorum, then Tom Ryan can, as our chief of staff, can come in and cast. So that would be, oh, there she is.
What did I read in the what do you call it? In the bylaws, that if there's no quorum, if there's less than a quorum,
you
the
can make it,
chairman can designate those that are at the meeting, a committee.
Right, and then the committee would make a recommendation to the next full
And-
meeting
and
of
the
the
committee
council,
can-
but that
That
doesn't meet the
help
time
Sarah.
constraints.
That doesn't,
Okay, so
doesn't
we
work.
do need to come up with a quorum for
Right.
the April meeting if we do move it
No,
up.
next month, we're having a
Okay.
special meeting. The other issue is,
Well, you didn't resolve that one.
okay, well, a commit, if we're, according to the letter that Sarah sent out, we're supposed to make a ruling very, very quickly for EPA so this project possibly can go forward. I don't know if the committee aspect of it that you're talking about would be adequate under the secret laws of the county. I think we need to have a full vote on it. So, in my opinion, we should just check out what Schneiderman passed a year or so ago, or 2 years ago, whatever it was, and see if indeed the designated representative of the head of EPA can vote.
Okay, Mike is looking at that right now.
Well, while he's looking at that, the other thing is the repayment schedule on these solar installations that Rich brought up. Just as an aside, I saw an analysis someplace that the cost to the county was going to be amortized out at a very, very long period. So they're not necessarily cost effective in certain ways to the county. I'm not objecting to it or anything, but I'm just telling you what I saw. I was looking through a budget once.
Well,
Okay.
the cost issue is
That's
really outside the
outside
of
purview
us. Right.
of the CEQ. And as far as voting, it is the chairman of the EPA committee or his or her designee.
Okay.
So,
So we could do that, Karen,
Yeah.
if you can't make that.
If you're not
session.
here on April 16th, just send
I'm going to try to
Yeah, I
change
have
my,
a committee of the legislature that morning, he's
Okay.
telling me, so it starts at 10, I have to be here for 15 minutes, but I don't know what.
Or you just send a key date, okay? All right, now we'll just make our photo, and we can do the meeting for you on Monday the 16th, Sarah.
and we'll just make it clear that it's a rescheduling of that Wednesday meeting to Monday, not a special additional meeting.
Got it.
Go ahead, Mary.
Gloria, I think your quorum is very tight, so if one of us, like Larry and I think we can come.
I know, I think I
If
can
one of
come
us
too.
cannot come, we need to let Christine
No,
know.
immediately.
Christine maybe ought to poll us, because
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll forget.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah,
Go
poll us.
ahead, Jim.
The CEQ's recommendation is issued to the legislature. I know that the EPA committee has a procedure which incorporates CEQ into it, but it's not a requirement. So if the EPA were to approve the project pending CEQ's recommendation, CEQ could meet that Wednesday, make the recommendation before it goes to the full ledge, and they still would be in compliance with the law. If you can't make a quorum for the Monday.
That would be a great alternative.
Okay.
I'm trying to shift 8 people in Albany. Should I try to shift away from Monday, or
No, don't change your schedule like that,
Don't.
no.
we'll stay on Wednesday?
So Sarah, with what Jim just said, which makes it certainly a lot more workable for all of us, and we know we'll have a quorum then on the 18th, I would prefer then to nullify our other motion if we can do it this way, and if there's no qualms about it, because it looks like, go ahead, Larry.
Well, go ahead.
No, I
finish.
just,
The thing I was going to raise is that I'm not sure exactly what we're going to be asked to do, but from an environmental perspective, I think there is
solar field.
a bigger issue, and that is whether or not solar panels are in fact a real cost to the environment, given the way they're made and how they're made, and it's not just whether the county is going to make or
Finance.
lose money on it. The whole technology as being practiced now apparently has been called into question, and I think there should be, if we're looking at the environmental issues, I think the county should be providing us with a bigger picture other than what are the immediate needs to the county.
thank you. Okay, any other thoughts on this? Okay, so I think with what Jim said, I think it's best, because we do have a worry we might not make the quorum then, to reschedule the meeting on Monday, the 16th. So I think we'll go back to our regular scheduled meeting on the 18th. We will certainly have our quorum. We will review the secret process of this new property. I understand Larry's concerns with the whole basis of whether or not this is truly a right way to go, okay? But what's being put before us is that secret application for that one site. All right, and so we will look at that and do our due diligence for a secret application for that,
Thank you.
okay? Do I need to nullify that other motion? Or anything?
Well, we didn't vote it. No, we didn't.
No, we
vote it.
did.
We did,
did
you
vote.
did, yeah, it was voted on.
So do I need to say, do I have a
You probably
motion?
should.
Motion to nullify.
Fine. A second?
Second.
All in favor? Motion passed.
As a follow-up question,
Yes, Tom.
will the application have the kind of details that would allow us to evaluate the manufacturing life cycle of the devices, or is it just use of a parcel of land with devices to be determined when they actually build it out?
We could
I have to ask Sarah.
ask Sarah to ask whoever's preparing it to include that stuff
Yep.
to prevent any tabling.
Yeah.
Maybe not only life cycle, but maybe also where it's manufactured, because that also goes to a lot of the issues of whether it's environmentally sound and effective, and so we could have some data on that.
I think got an article right now. You know, talking about this stuff.
Smiling, I love it.
Any other
I don't know
information
what the hell you
that CQ would like?
Well, how about a little background information on where they are buying the solar panels from, where they're manufactured?
Yeah.
China,
And,
they're strip mining.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Okay. Any other concerns?
Yeah, what version they are, because there's different versions. So the real specifics on a particular panel.
If it's known, I mean, if it's not
Yes.
known yet.
Yeah,
We
but-
may not know, yes, I understand.
Right.
But to the best of your ability. Okay, thank you.
So, and then Christine, you'll do the proper notification of the change of the meeting?
Yes.
No,
Well,
it's
we're
going
not
to be
gonna
the same
change.
on April 18th. We're going to follow what Jim
We're
Bailey
gonna-
said.
Oh, we are, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
don't
Regular
worry.
meeting.
It's too iffy to try and get a quorum. So, okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let's see here. Historic trust document. What do you have? Anything?
Just updates on the housing program. Again, all the historic housing sites are occupied that can be occupied at this time. We do have a new housing unit that's being advertised now at the new North Fork Preserve property, but that is not an historic building. It's a cement block, pretty much a warehouse building that apartment has been established within to have a caretaker on site. So that's now being advertised, but I don't think it would qualify. I don't know if Nick, you want to explain that site any further?
I promised you a couple times to take you out to the site, right?
Right.
And that hasn't happened. The building is, it's of all modern construction. It was really industrial almost. It's cement block, steel roof, and a flat rolled roof. There's nothing really of interest there. But I do want to take Rich out just for that, for him to review that. There is a proposal moving forward to add 3 additional buildings to the acquisition. It's a separate acquisition, but from the same seller. One is a modern residence, which is, it dates, I'd say, to the 70s or early 80s. And the other 2 structures are barns, and I know there's personal interest in that here as well. So we'll take a look at those buildings if and when they become county acquisitions. But at this time, it's still pending.
Okay. And the contracts, the Maritime Museum has received its contract and has until April 16th to respond with any comments and anything they want to negotiate with the Parks Department. So that's still in the works. And that's all I have today.
That's it? Okay, thank you.
Rich, do you see any conflicts right now with the contract for the Maritime Museum? I know they've been going through it for a while, and
No, it's just
pretty
every
ironed out.
contract, there is really no set boilerplate, and it does keep getting tweaked. So this, it's been a while since they've reviewed a county contract. So I'm sure they'll have some questions on just the requirements.
okay, but nothing major in terms of, it's just contract analysis more than anything else, is what you're saying.
I'm hoping so, yes. I mean, the contract is no different than what we have at our other historic sites. It's just, it's been a number of years before they've, seen a new county contract. and the boilerplate increases.
Yeah.
Okay. They might be a little disturbed at first seeing that.
Well, Steve Jones is there, he'll understand this
Yeah,
stuff.
Yeah.
It's a little daunting.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Recommended type 2 actions. Ratification of recommendations for legislative resolutions laid on the table March 13th, 2012. Mike, is there anything special here that we should
Just
be aware of?
a couple of little things. IR 1221 is a resolution approving the license agreement for a residence at the Smith House at West Hills County Park. Just thought you guys might want to be aware. 1222 is authorizing the custodial license agreement for Oldfield Farm, which we are in the process of preparing the legislative resolution to make the formal dedication. IR 1223, another license agreement for a residence at South Haven County Park. 1228, just because this came up at the meeting not too long ago, Legislator Hahn put in a resolution prohibiting the acceptance of wastewater from hydraulic fracturing at county sewage treatment plants.
I'd like to thank Carol for doing that.
Was that actually a
Yeah, that's a
proposal?
really
That they wanted
Oh,
to
yeah.
ship it downstate?
Yeah, it was in the DEC report.
It was on the DEC list in the appendix as a potential acceptance or receiving
Yeah.
site, so.
Oh, Glencoe.
That was great.
It's built.
Yeah,
All
basically,
came out of this meeting.
yeah,
That's for Larry.
believe me, Larry brought it
Thank
up
you,
and blindsided everybody on it.
What's that?
Oh, I do want to make a point on 1273. I just made some minor changes to the type 2 references. I changed it to 2, 7, 20, and 27, just so when you actually do go to vote, it's the one that we're sending over to the ledge is going to be slightly different than what's on your sheet, because I spoke to DPW yesterday and they gave me a little more detail.
Are they gonna make the changes in the reso?
Yeah, well, that's up to the ledge. We're gonna give our recommendations.
Okay.
I spoke to DPW, so hopefully they'll make the appropriate changes. And finally, 1294, it's Richard's reappointment to the council. Congratulations.
Also
Thank you. I haven't been voted on
No,
yet.
Yeah.
it's the legislature.
I will vote on these resolutions, but recuse myself on 1294.
Fair enough.
So,
Okay, just two quick questions. 1302, declaring a surplus and directing a study to determine future uses of certain catch basin inserts. Is this just literally the insert of, that you put into catch basins? I have no idea what this is.
They're filters, kind of a rocks-in-the-box type filter that we did a pilot study on a year or two ago, but
I remember that.
the Department of Public Works determined that there was too much maintenance associated with them, and the roads supposedly started flooding, so they removed them. But there was a suggestion that they may be more appropriate for villages that might just have a handful of appropriate spots, and where they actually can do the maintenance on them, clean them out frequently enough to avoid flooding and still serve the function of filtering the stormwater runoff. So I was hoping that instead of just letting them continue to be a pile of unused equipment, that maybe we could find someone who can use them for the purposes of filtering stormwater runoff.
These are the magic rocks, I think,
Recycle.
from
Yes.
Montana or something.
I'm not sure where the rocks are from.
Well, a couple of years ago, we were presented with something, magic rocks
Yes.
from the
I don't
Midwest that we're going
know,
to catch
these are
certain things.
Fabco products, but I don't.
And then 1296,
Not much
local
more.
law to create the Suffolk County Land Bank Corporation. That was adopted already. Okay.
Those filters, so those would be given to, you're saying to the villages?
We have to
Okay.
find, they are a certain size. So
Right.
we have to match appropriate municipalities that will have the same size, the need for the same size filters. We have to find them, a village that feels like they can take the time to maintain them.
Right, 'cause the
And
maintenance
wants
is
to
always an
use
issue,
them,
yeah.
yes.
So are there other municipalities that do have this sort of?
That's what we're hoping they're gonna determine.
So we don't know yet, okay.
The MS4 community is very tightly knit together. If you go through Eileen Keenan, she has us all listening to every breakthrough in rulings and in technologies and such, so to her would be a great way to say
Yes.
who wants,
If
you
you
know,
just
who has the
emailed
fit.
Eileen Keenan on her MS4 network.
There you go. I don't know who she is.
Okay. I don't have that
DEC.
information. She's at the
I'll forward it to
DEC.
you.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. Why are they becoming clogged? I mean, the maintenance. Does any-
That's a
There's always
question
there's
for-
always
There's
maintenance.
al-
with
they're
those
not.
things.
They're designed to have very frequent maintenance. They will clog up, and if you don't have the maintenance people to get out there and do
I
this within
understand
a
that, but
month
is
or
it
two.
silts or is it all this garbage that people throw out on the road
Plastics.
that clogs the
Probably
town?
a-
I'm sure it's a
It's both.
combination.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a combination of the two.
It seems like it's more maintenance heavy, and that's one
They
of the
are
problem.
maintenance, very heavy.
So for a county that has
Limited funds.
hundreds or maybe even thousands of these, it just wasn't.
No,
But now they're
it's
beginning
not
to look at
practical.
end of pipe technology that
That's
where, so hopefully we can get them funding for that. They tried this method, it didn't work, and they had actually warned the legislature that it would be too much for them to do, so. But they did try. Now we just want to we want them to be used so that they are filtering stormwater somewhere.
Well, Tom, going to Eileen Keenan at the state for the MS4 is perfect. If you get her
I'll
info.
forward that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, these two guys are plugged into the MS4 stuff.
Yes.
I had a question about 1208. I'm sure this is something the CQ made a policy decision on years ago,
MS4.
but it's always puzzled me that we use drinking water protection money to buy farmland development rights on sod farms which pump tons of artificial pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers into the ground every year.
That's the Peter Monet argument.
Good point.
Very good point.
We don't initiate those,
No.
Right.
but we do approve them, and I think we've asked questions about it, but I think you gotta go back to here in planning and ask whether they should ever be initiated.
Well, the original premise was, technically under SECRA, it's an operating farm in existence. And all they're doing is purchasing a development right to prevent future development for houses and whatnot on that site. So in essence, there isn't a SECRA impact. I mean, if you want to go back and look at farming is one of the most, polluting industries in the United States. Whether sod farms are extremely polluting, but every form of farming is polluting. And decisions were made in SECRA that farming practices are exempt.
That's because of the ag laws and the fact that agriculture is so
kind of-
central to the
I
economy.
mean, that's
So the
the
as-is is like
background.
this.
Yeah.
They had no choice.
So,
They really
so
have no choice.
it comes down to the fact, does the county want to go in and preserve a sod farm or allow it to go to houses or multifamily or something like that?
But I think it even goes further than that, Jim. I know there's one in Huntington that's a commercial nursery. It's a wholesale nursery. And they have these rows and rows of plastic houses where they use fertilizer and pesticides and what have you. And certainly, it's not to grow edible produce. It's to grow flowers,
Ornamental post. Yeah.
ornamentals. And so they're a little less discreet in what they're putting out there. Certainly, it has to be legal as per the state DEC, but nevertheless, it's not the same kind of pesticides and the same kind of fertilizers that you would use on food stuff. So, and yet we're buying the development rights on those lands as well. So, how do you weigh it?
Yeah, we're gonna have to clean up.
Well, we're not purchasing the property, we're not fee title holders. We only hold, stripping the property, it allowed to continue under existing use, and we're stripping the property of the potential development if it were to turn over.
Right.
The farmer still owns fee title, he's still responsible for any pollution
Right,
cleanup.
so it's still dumping, and, yeah.
Vivian's AEM, Agriculture Environmental Management Program, which is a voluntary program, We need to see that expanded and bring in more of the agricultural properties to actually try to follow, more environmentally friendly practices and preventing the pesticides and fertilizers, from using too much.
It is a big problem
It's a big
for
problem.
all agriculture.
But it's bigger than just the fertilizers too. And
Yeah.
part of the point of all this is, of course, open space. And when you make plastic buildings, you're doing, you're having some of the same problems that you had if you have a permanent building with a housing development. You got runoff and so forth. I don't know if the county requires that the plastic be taken down X number of months per year or not, but I know some locations do require that you can not have the plastic up, say, between October and March or something.
Yeah, but Larry, the issue with that, and you're sort of reflecting Dick Amper's viewpoint in that, the decision on a policy
I don't know if I want to
then.
be linked there, but
Well, no,
It's a bit of a jump.
I know, but nonetheless, if you're talking about these, the plastic greenhouses and things like that, it's still keeping it in agricultural use, and that is a central policy of the state and also, frankly, of the county. As long as it's an agricultural use and they haven't differentiated the different type of ag use from, say, actual food production versus ornamentals, as long as it's all kept in one category, if you will, there is a bias in the state regs, in state law, seeker, etc., and also the county's laws, to try and keep that in agricultural use, with the concept being that it's better to have the ag use in terms of employment, open space, this, that, and the other thing. It's better to have that than, frankly, to have unmitigated development in areas where maybe it shouldn't occur.
There's been some friction, though, as to how much should be covered with greenhouses
Right.
and how,
That's the 40%
do
rule, I
you
think.
ruin the vista? I mean, part of, this discussion that we're talking about, why do you want to keep a sod farm or sod farm? And it's really, like you said, Michael, it's horrendous from an environmental perspective, but part of that is, the vistas of the farmland, how many people it attracts from an economic development standpoint. So there are all kinds of things, and when you start putting these plastic,
No, there's definitely an argument both ways, but I mean, you really have the bias right now as it exists, and as it codified in law, is keeping it in agricultural use, and if you will, with the limitations, if you will, on the visual and some of the tourism that's sort of ancillary to the primary ag use.
But it's also about the vista's one thing. If it's agricultural, it's agricultural, but the methodologies of the agricultural industry could be addressed.
well, that's what Vivian's AEM program intends to do, and we hope to keep that funded, certainly. I think that's important, but it's not mandatory. And if we're purchasing, I think one of the things we're going to be struggling with in the next couple of months as we move forward on, our policy, and if we're purchasing with drinking water protection funds, and I think that's part of Mike's point here, is these funds were put aside for drinking water protection. Farmland had other pots of money previously, and now we're going to be buying not only traditional open space, but farmland, active rec, all from one pot of money, and it's a very small pot of money moving forward. So these are real policy questions that we have to be thinking about.
so you're taking care of it in the legislative side of the house?
We have a small group of environmentalists and planning department folks and legislators who are kind of working towards a new, policy statement on, how we move forward with limited funds and making sure we're prioritizing, et cetera.
So they will roll into all these farmland issues that we're discussing with the new way we're going to have with the land purchasing policy.
We're hoping to get something on the table in the next month or two.
And I know it was quite contentious the last EPA meeting.
Yes.
How can we do this so quickly? Is that moving along?
It moved out of EPA on Monday, it'll come before the full ledge on Tuesday, and that just was that's in this packet, it's 1197, I don't recall the numbers. Nope,
We don't have 11.
yes, 1197 on page 11 of 12.
No, we don't
And
have
that, oh, I'm sorry.
We're into 12.
I go up to 10 of 10.
Yeah.
You've got more than I do.
Yeah, we
Which
have the ones
layout
later than
table
I
do
don't
you
have.
have?
I don't have
Just
one.
the March
Later on the
13th?
table, what date?
I have,
February 7th, oh, I'm not looking.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
that's
why. Yeah, we're into 12s here.
Okay, but it's
Coming to
it's
the
moving
21st
along,
century.
Kara.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
moving along. It, again, that just is asking, giving the department 90 days to, you know, take a look at everything on the master list, rate them,
Yes.
and then create a priority list so that we, when we have so little money, we can say, you know, these are our top 10 properties that are most critically environmentally sensitive, and we should go after those first, or,
Okay.
All right, good.
Yes, Jim.
Also, I believe the Agricultural Review Committee, they changed their guidelines in terms of any proposed new structures on county farmland where the development rights were first get reviewed by that body, and there is a limitation in terms of the amount of greenhouses and things that can be put up, I believe.
Yeah, well, that's what, what's his face, the guy from Pine Barrens, Dick Amper, was talking about, and they've been talking about trying to reduce those numbers, as I remember. That's sort of part and parcel.
But there is a limitation, I
Yeah.
know that. And I think
it's
recently they
20% or
adopted
something.
new rules and regulations with respect to that.
Did they?
on the farmland.
I think so, yeah.
Joy, go ahead.
While we are on this topic, Kara, could you discuss
That's Jessica.
whether this Newsday article is accurate or not?
Well, I don't have it in front of me.
They're about to
What do
have
you,
it.
what do you, what do you?
I just,
wondering?
I'm not questioning, I was
Based on
just
what Amber said.
talking about, could you do a quick review? Don't worry about the newspaper article. Do a quick review. I know 90 days.
Well, the department asked for between 6 months and a year, and I said, no, that's too long. So this is a quick review, and I think we'll, you know, it'll get done, and there's going to be a significant number of properties that move forward. Anything where they've already received a written offer with a dollar amount in it is allowed to come forward, you know, under the current process, so that we don't, you know, we don't hurt the
Scourge.
discourage landowners from, thank you, Mike. Discourage landowners from participating in our program, because if they spend 2 years negotiating, convince their families to come to, you know, to come to the table and sell to the county, and they take it off the market, and they wait for the county's long, protracted process, and then at the last moment, we say, you know, all 50 of you that have done that, you know, we're going to rethink. You know, I can understand how that could harm the integrity of the program. So we're going to let those come forward. Of course, the legislature always has the final say in authorizing resolutions and approving authorizing resolutions. So they're going to come forward as they would have previously, and then the rest, we hope to create a new way to look at land purchases so that they're not one at a time, and we look at them against each other, and we find a way to avoid. That's going to be the hardest part, I think. Janet, you can talk, but I don't know that there's going to be a way to avoid the legislature always being allowed to say no, even after the contract's signed, and.
Well, that's how the program is designed.
Right.
You know,
Right, but there's talk from you and others that, well, you really can't say no to an authorizing resolution because they're in contract, and the
Well,
legislature should have another bite at it between planning steps and going to contracts, because planning steps has always been, the intent of the legislature is always come back and let us know whether or not we should buy this. It's kind of like, go look into this and let us know, you know, the exact size and the, you know, if it's contaminated, you know, look into it for us. And they come back with a contract signed, and it's, you know, that makes it hard to say no.
For the horse.
Right, but we can't approve, we have to approve an exact price, and you don't have that until you have the appraisals and until you have the contract. So it's kind of a catch-22 scenario that we're gonna try to work out.
Janet, is the review process before or after appraisal? Is everything that has not been appraised dead for this time period?
Janet, before you answer, just state your full name and title so we have it on our recorder, please.
Janet Longo, I'm the acquisition supervisor, Division of Real Property Acquisition and Management.
Thank you.
To Kara's statement before, actually, the way the program used to be was we never had planning steps and authorizing. The legislature passed the authorizing resolution without planning steps and just told us, go buy this, without even knowing how much it was going to cost. 8 years ago, we created the streamlining resolution where the master list came in. We created the ETRB. This way the legislature passed planning steps, told us to go out, do all the work, you know, get the appraisals, make an offer, go into contract, order ESAs, order title, and then come back for the authorizing resolution. And that's how the process has been. And the idea behind that was that with the ETRB process, that approves the number that we offer, because now we don't negotiate. We have a one-offer system. We offer what we feel is market value, and it's a take it or leave it situation with the seller. That number gets approved by Environmental Trust Review Board. The Environmental Trust Review Board has 4 legislators on it and commissioners of 4 departments. So that was kind of the oversight, so to speak, with value, to make sure that we were offering the correct value. While we had the money, that was great, that worked well, we came back and it got approved. Now that the money's decreasing, we have always known we can't buy everything. Nobody ever anticipated we could buy everything. But planning steps keep coming in, and we can't buy everything. So, you know, Kara suggested we pause and we review everything, which is great. The master list, according to Steve Levy, was to take the politics out of land acquisition. You know, we've done a lot of the master list, so we'll just see where it goes, where real estate is working on culling the master list to see what we've already purchased, what's left, that kind of thing.
Thank you.
So we'll, hopefully between real estate and planning, we'll get it all done within the 90 days. We're already working on it and have been anticipating that your bill will pass, and hopefully it'll take 30 days and not 90 days.
Actually change the language so that the pause could stop if you finished it early, so.
Yeah, well, we're certainly working on it.
Yeah.
But if I may just clarify some of the questions before regarding the farmland. The county has a new Chapter 8, which regulates the farmland program, and it regulates the percentage of coverage of greenhouses and all of that. So it's already been changed once. I think the Farmland Committee and Planning are looking at it again because there are some things that aren't working as well as people had hoped, so they're going to tweak it again. It would be great if, you know, we could get the farmers to participate, but like you said, that's a voluntary program.
Yeah.
We purchase the development rights, only the development rights. The farmers keep their land, they continue to pay taxes on their land, and they can continue to farm it. They can sell it to some other farmer who will continue to farm it. The idea of the program is not to have these farms sprout developments. You know, we want them to stay in agricultural production because that is the economy on the East End. That is economic development. And right now, just because a farm is a sod farm doesn't mean it has to stay a sod farm. It could become a horse farm. It could become row crops. It could become any other kind of farming. We don't dictate to the farmers what they can do, except it has to be in agricultural production. So that's the whole idea behind the development rights. And quite frankly, that program has been very, very successful. We would all love to see the farmers participate in, you know, they have to use pesticides, but it would be nice if they could not use as much.
Well, especially when we're using drinking water money to buy it.
Well, and that's another issue. I mean, in the
That's
past,
what-
we've had money set aside for farmland.
Right.
Money set aside for, 40% money was always drinking water protection. And then we used to have money for active recreation. There are 3 different types of uses, and you can't, they're not compatible, and you can't compare them to each other, because they're all different.
Right.
But right now, you know, like Vivian had introduced an SOS, which had, I don't even remember the numbers, 10 million for active rec, 30 million for farmland, and whatever the difference was for open space. That kind of makes sense to me. But right now, you know, at one point we had 17 programs, 17 different funding sources we were working with. We're down to 0.25% now. And that's our only funding source. But, and it allows for the purchase of everything under that. That's a legislative problem, I guess, you know, to find funding or to change that, but, you know, the farmland development program is a good program, as is open space, and we need pocketbooks. Hopefully the economy will change and we'll be getting more money in. To answer your question, Joy, everything that doesn't have an accepted offer, is that right, Kara? Or just a written offer?
A written offer.
I read it as accepted offer, but if it's just a written offer, unless there's a written offer out there, which would be
With a
the
dollar
last
amount.
ETRB.
Yeah, not just a, we want to buy your land.
No, a written
but
offer
yeah,
is,
with a dollar
after
amount, yeah.
ETRB, we
Right.
send an offer letter. So everything up to the last ETRB that was passed, that we've sent the letters out, everything after that, there's nothing else after that. Now, everything just kind of pauses until this review is done.
Right.
So it'll be paused for 3 months. Hopefully that'll be like the deadline,
Up to 3 months.
up to 3 months. And then I don't know, then I guess we have our list,
Yep.
right? And then we start from the top of the list and we
And
go down.
if we don't change the way things are bought, it will at least be something we can refer to as, you know, this is the list of everything that's here in the pipeline in order that it was rated.
Right. And of course, we all understand real estate, you don't always have a willing seller.
Right.
So something may be at the top of the list, but we don't have a willing seller, so then I guess
Right.
we just go down the list.
Right.
Larry, go ahead.
What was the original language for the 1/4%? What was the intent of the law that allowed us to spend 1/4% money?
The original language?
Yeah, well,
That was drinking water.
Well, it morphed over the years. The original language was strictly for core Pine Barrens property. That was the original 1/4%.
okay, but when we voted on it again,
In 2007?
yeah, what does it say?
2007, it allowed for the acquisition of farmland development rights, open space, and active parkland. And there was criterias in there, like with the open space properties that we buy, the workforce housing credits get stripped off of those and go into a bank in planning for the developers to use for added density someplace else, or, you know, whatever. I don't get involved with that program, we just strip the development rights. But farmland obviously we're buying the development rights, but the land is still there, so that doesn't participate in the workforce housing credit.
So the use of the 1/4% now has not morphed from what it was voted on in 2007.
No.
So
It can't.
now?
It
No.
can't, yeah.
That's my concern.
Right.
But it's not just those programs, that's just a subset of the entire piece of the program.
Right.
There's also tax, sewer,
Sewer rate
Stabilization.
stabilization.
Reserve,
as well as
and-
overhead operations.
There's sewer stabilization, there's actually.
There was tax
There's
stabilization
actually
in
a
there
whole
also.
fund that goes to
31%.
tax stabilization.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a slush
31.
fund.
Yeah, it went into the general
32%,
fund.
More than the open space component. And then there's, what's the other one? Sewers?
Assessment Stabilization Reserve Fund, Tax
Assessment.
Stabilization Reserve Fund, the water quality protection.
Water quality was the
like,
third one.
Programs.
programs,
Yeah, they get
projects.
13%.
Rich?
I'm not sure, I have some friends that are farmers on Long Island, and there is a huge tax exemption on farms. That's an incentive so that they would continue farming. Okay? If you give them the next incentive by developing, buying their development rights and giving them a wad of cash, they're not paying very much in the way of taxes anyway, and they have a wad of cash in their hands,
Welcome to the US.
they're doing pretty good,
Most of them are not.
So that's something you might want to look into, is what the incentive is. I think it runs for 8 years, and 2 years before it's over, you have to apply for it again,
That's the ag
and you can keep the exemption going
You have to apply.
ad infinitum.
Yeah, but
Is that a town district?
you don't get the wad of cash, though.
It's,
There's a tax on it, 50% capital gain.
New York State.
Okay.
That also gets tied into the inheritance tax though, because a lot of these farms, when the original property owner passed away, these farms then go into the estate tax system, and knowing the property values of Long Island, and the estate tax years ago used to be 55%, and the New York state tax was on top of that. In order to pay the inheritance tax, you had to sell the farm. So this program, to some extent, was designed to give them a little bit of the money in order to be able to pay off the estate taxes and lower the property values so they could stay in farming.
Yeah, there's a tax avoidance game, if you will, on this, because it has to do with bases and complicated estate tax formulas. Basically, when they enter this program, the tax benefit, or at least one of them, is it comes in at a certain basis. And in terms of the, as Jim was just saying, in terms of the inheritance model, it locks in at the basis that it was bought at. And certain appreciation that maybe occurs later on does not get taxed as heavily. So there's an incentive, if you will, to enter into the program, because you do get those tax breaks. But I don't see very many farmers getting all that rich around here. In large numbers.
That's because
Get
they
back
keep
on
it
topic.
stuffed under their mattress.
Never seen it.
Joy, did you have your questions answered?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes. We need to have a motion now to recommend the type 2 actions to ratify all of them.
Motion.
Mike made a
Motion to
motion, is there a
accept.
second?
Second.
Second by Tom, all in favor?
Remember, I'm
Motion
recused
carried.
on
You're
1294.
recused, yes, on that one. Okay, all righty.
I should have voted that.
Let's move on to recommended unlisted actions. The first one is proposed acquisition for open space preservation purposes known as the Hubbard County Park Edition, Hughes property, town of Southampton. Nick, are you going to be speaking on this?
No, I think Katie is.
Katie is? Okay. Hi, Katie, just state your name and title, please.
Hi, my name's Katie McGee. I'm an environmental planner at the Suffolk County Division of Planning and Environment.
Okay, before you begin, Katie, I'm just going to take a moment. I want to introduce our new commissioner of the Parks Department, Mr. Greg Davison. Oh, Dawson. Please stand up, say hello. It's nice to meet you. We welcome you here.
Happy to be aboard.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Katie, go right ahead.
Okay, the Hughes property is proposed as an addition to the Hubbard County Park. This IR that you're considering would authorize the acquisition of the property for passive recreational purposes under the new Suffolk County Drinking Water Protection Program open space component. For the criteria, freshwater, tidal, wetlands, and buffer lands were the same. The site is 1.1 plus or minus acres and is comprised of 3 tax map parcels. The property is located northeast of Flanders Road, south of Birch Avenue, and west of Goose Creek, in the hamlet of Flanders and in the town of Southampton. New York State DEC regulated wetlands are located on the site. The property is also located within FEMA's 100-year base floodplain A zone. A Phase 1 environmental site assessment was completed and did not reveal any evidence of recognized environmental conditions in connection with the subject property. Goose Creek is located less than 100 feet from the eastern property line of the whole assemblage of three. Goose Creek flows through Hubbard County Park and into Flanders Bay. Therefore, the preservation of the site has importance for habitat management and buffering purposes. And then just one little thing that I thought was sort of confusing, so I'll just explain it on the map. Just if you see, it's actually located outside, just outside of the Pine Barrens core, but you see that pink line, the pink dashed line. That's actually the border of the Pine Barrens core, but on this property is really on the not Pine Barrens core side. And the same with the green and white dotted line, that's for the Central Suffolk SGPA. This property is just outside of the SGPA. So that's just one other thing I thought I'd mention. Any questions? Yeah.
Well, that's because Steve Engelbert should be happy that he had to do this work. So am I.
Yeah, looks like it's fine property. The big duck will be happy.
Yes.
I was gonna ask, where is the
Where
big
is that in
duck?
relation? I'm happy.
I think it's actually to the south.
That
1.1.
1.1 acre.
I think the duck is to the south.
You need a motion?
Yes.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I'll second.
What's the motion?
What's the motion? Go for it.
It's a raise point, Rick.
Let me,
All right, sorry.
unlisted neg deck.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions or concerns?
That was easy.
Okay.
Great presentation.
All in favor of the motion? Okay. Motion passed. Okay. Open space preservation purposes known as Hubbard County Park Edition at Meshoot County Campground. Nick, is that you?
I'll move around.
Okay.
I hate to start with two strikes against me, but Gloria, I apologize for addressing this to Larry, our former trainer, and I'll make a note of that in the future.
I know where you live. You live behind me.
I think being graced by a presentation from Nick Gibbons is enough to give
To assuage.
I'm afraid what's gonna come next.
Nick, I got something on Levy letterhead from the department yesterday.
That person was executed today.
It wasn't your department, don't worry.
See,
You laugh, I got to shoot out.
Okay, so just
Stale.
Nick Gibbons, Suffolk County Parks Department. The proposal is for the relocation of a campground, an RV campground area at Meshoot Beach County Park. It's in the town of Southampton. It's on the northeast side of Shinnecock Canal. It fronts Peconic Bay. Just to explain how we got to this point, the previous condition at the park was that we had an RV campground in the extreme western portion of the existing paved parking lot for about 10 years now. There are 10 RV sites there. They were recently added to our reservation system a number of years ago, so they're essentially booked for the entire summer, about 6 months in advance.
Is this the large wide spots or the RV spots? Because it looks like there's...
yeah, on the aerial.
Yes,
Yeah.
yep, yeah, you can make those out. And obviously this aerial is from a while back. We've since, very recently, ripped up the entire parking lot and a project that came through the CEQ a number of years ago, and the parking lot was reconfigured to drain towards the middle. A drainage swale was constructed along the center median of the parking lot.
Yeah, I remember that.
All the drainage is
Yeah.
pitched towards the center.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what had been proposed was a vegetated swale, but Parks had concerns about maintenance and operation of that with people pedestrian across that. So what the compromise position was that a pea gravel was installed and a split rail fence was put around the perimeter of that with designated pedestrian access ways across it. The unforeseen result of that was that we can no longer accommodate RVs in the parking lot because this median goes down the entire length of the parking lot. We're very happy with the way it's coming along from a parking lot standpoint. However, it precludes the use for the RV camping. So the current position of the department is that we have an entire summer's worth of reservations for these 10 sites that now no longer exist.
Oh, okay.
Compounded with that was the idea for many years, and I'll call your attention to the first attachment, which is simply the overview of the site with the pink perimeter there of the proposed project area. You'll notice in the far northern corner there, in that dogleg piece, is some old asphalt macadam surface. So that the site, at least in that along that western strip, is disturbed. It had been we had considered for many years to have an RV campground along the canal. Just never was a priority for the department, and we never moved forward with it. So it's an idea we had been kicking around for a number of years. The RV camping in the parking lot itself, which we had up until last season, wasn't the most ideal spot anyway. It took up approximately 80 parking stalls in the lot. And believe it or not, Mashut it's full on most weekends, especially at night. There's quite a loyal following of folks. They have a classic car night, a number of activities going on in the Beach Hut concession stand, which is out of this picture. So those 80 stalls would be much needed spaces we could utilize almost immediately. Go to the next page. It's a corresponding photo key. The photos follow. I want to just walk everybody through the conditions at the site.
Nick, just one question we can make. Is it okay?
Go right
Madam
ahead.
Chairman? Is this going to be cleared and it's going to have a hard surface? Or is it going to be a gravel surface?
Well, we could jump to that. It's a combination of the two.
There's going to be pads in it?
Which, if you take this, the final, the 11 by 17 sheet is the layout of the proposed layout of the campground. The stalls are numbered 1 through 15. If you recall, we had 10 spots previously, so there'll be a gain of an additional 5 sites with this layout. The road is scheduled for an asphalt road surface. That's single lane of traffic, 18 feet wide. Entrance would be from the existing parking lot, and exit would be down by the Shinnecock Marina. The individual stalls are not proposed to be anything more than crushed stone with some split rail installed to better identify where those sites are. We don't require at this site in particular 4x4 accessibility. We do at other, outer beach campground areas. So this would be no different. You could take a conventional 2-wheel drive pickup truck and still navigate this road. So the asphalt surface would be the roadway itself, and the rest would be RCA.
Karen?
I remember in some discussions about park fees previously, there was talk about RV camping and they have to plug into electric and there's a high electric use. Can you talk a little bit about that here? Like, how would that be set up if you're going to put in
Well, we currently have no funding to install electricity at these sites. You may have heard in the past that the service we used to have in the RV campgrounds is no longer adequate for these bigger RVs. So we've been doing some upgrades, particularly at Smith Point, from a 30 amp service to a 50 amp service.
At some point, does the amperage redefine what they're calling camping?
Well, depends on who you ask. We've had that conversation here in particular over the years. But we do accommodate other more rural camping, primitive camping in other parks, but we don't have a shut. There's no there's no place to accommodate that here.
Tom, the fact that they're in an RV and they're bringing their living room with them, doesn't that already
But,
take it
but
out?
they can't plug in here.
Not currently, and they couldn't in the parking lot anyway, so we have generator hours.
Right.
Okay, so you do have generators for them, for their power?
No, they
they
bring
bring
their
They bring their
own.
own, okay, and what about, are they self-contained for their waste?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
There's
They have
water
to come
lines in there.
to, our nearest facility is at Sears Bellows, where we have a dump station there. And there's none proposed here. There is I'm not sure if it shows up on here, there's a pump out for the marina. But that's not going to accommodate the RVs, it's a different system.
Is there an intent to McMansionize the RV park by giving them more power?
Down the road, it would, in my opinion, it's an improvement to bring electricity to the individual sites for a place like this, because then you don't have the noise impacts of generator use. As well as individual water.
And you do charge.
Yes, we do.
For, like it's revenue generating.
Yes.
Okay.
Could
Tom?
that
Hold
be
on.
done in,
Tom.
sorry.
The existing layout has 10 sites, the plan achieves 15 sites, is there growth? Is that part of what we're trying to do here?
No, it's just the configuration. If it hadn't been for the fact that we could fit the 15 and we could simply get the 10 that were originally displaced, we would do so. It's just because of the layout here. Go back to the overall aerial, the first attachment.
Right.
In that southwest corner, the property flares out and it's much wider here. So if you notice spots 11 through 15, so we have parking on either side of that roadway. It's just the best use of the entire space. We couldn't, at one time we thought we were just simply going to lay the 10 RVs along the canal.
Right, that's what I was wondering.
And not get into this clearing of this other area. We measured this a couple of times and we can't accommodate safely traffic. We're installing a guardrail and a chain link fence along the canal for security concerns with children in the campground, that kind of thing. The current condition is you go right over the edge into the canal, which this is some of the most dangerous water on Long Island, both for traffic and for tidal fluctuation
Yeah.
flow. So because it has such a narrowing there, the concept was to bend it around to the east and make use of this existing area, which I'll get into.
Eva?
Just to go back to my question, because I'm wondering if there is going to be, everything's becoming so much more developed, and to me, that's an aspect of development. Then is there going to be any kind of consideration to do that in an ecological way, in the sense that, it could be wind power, solar power, or other methodologies, that address the bigger picture of the environmental issues? I mean, a lot of the parks already have electrification to a certain degree, and as we use more and more power, I think some of the issues are not being addressed on what's generating that power, and is there an economical way to do that, and is there an environmentally more friendly way to do all that? So that's my point. As an architect, I see the McMansioning of the entire Long Island, which is kind of, I know I'm supposed to be wanting to build, but I don't think it's necessarily the right way to go all the time. So I'm just really
Conventional power source, you mean, versus
other
alternative
ways
energy?
of making power, so that are more friendly to the environment in a bigger picture of things.
Well, we
Which
can
goes-
certainly, it would be a later phase for this project. The most immediate need is to just simply establish a primitive RV site, campground site for this season. We do propose to install conduit, which we would need regardless of what the source would be, so that at a later date we could come back through and extend utilities into the area. But we could, if the CEQ wishes to, they could request of the department to investigate alternative sources of energy.
I feel we have to start someplace. This is an issue.
We already have. One, if you read the plan, there's water lines coming in, just in case anybody missed that. But two, I count, I believe, at least 2 solar lights. Okay, 3. Well, I can't count that high. Yeah, there's 3. There are 3 solar lights in there. I've gone camping a fair amount, and I've seen a lot of campgrounds. And, you really start losing the concept of camping if you've got generator lines in there, if you've got power lines and things like that. you don't want to make it so that it's bringing, as I said a moment ago, bringing your living room with you. Okay. Again, you've got to. That's the purpose of camping and going out to these things. I live near a campsite at Short Beach in Smithtown, and basically people just build fires and they have their little community going, and they really don't have electric power out there or anything like that. So there's a question if you even want to bring in a lot of that. Now, I understand with RVs, they're bringing their living room with them. They have their generators. There's a problem with noise at night. I mean, you don't like to hear the hum of all of that. So, Eva brings up a legitimate issue. I'm not sure if we can deal with that in the context of this particular application. The county has gone, it's got solar lights in there that helps on power drain. Where I'd like to focus, though, is if you look at some of the pictures, this is a relatively low-lying area, relatively flat, and it's going to be taken up with a bunch of RVs. If you look at the pictures, it's very, very open. Is there any thought to putting in a little bit of landscaping beyond the fences that you might have looking up there?
Right, maybe this is a good opportunity.
I'm seeing some, but I'm not sure what I'm seeing.
They've got some.
The retaining strip.
Well, I'm not sure what I'm seeing. I'm trying to correlate it, for example, with some of the aerials, and I'm not exactly spotting it.
Well, if you go back, Mike, there's a photo key that identifies where each photo location was. Mm-hmm. And then if you just look at the photos, and I'll walk you through it, starting with photo 1. So we're now exiting. This is a view from the newly resurfaced, and you'll notice it's not yet completed. The asphalt will take it up to the top of the curb, and the curb cut here. They had to shut down for the winter, and we're getting word that they're going to be finishing the project in the next couple of weeks. So now we're looking essentially west from west from the northwest corner of the existing parking lot out to Shinnecock Canal. And if you notice, just beyond that pile of RCA is some of that old macadam that I referenced earlier. And then photo 2 is now stepping through the curb cut into that area, looking essentially to the southwest, down towards some of the commercial recreational marinas along Shinnecock Canal. And you'll notice it's very open. It's a disturbed area. It's not clear to me, but it seems at one point in time, maybe during stabilization of the canal or maintenance thereof, there was an access road that went through this property. I'm not sure of the whole history of it, but I'm sure DPW years ago made regular use of this area. Photos 3 and 4 are looking essentially south. You'll notice the crossing to the south of the Shinnecock Canal. And we're headed towards our Shinnecock Marina. 5 is the same. That's now from the bulkhead itself, looking due south. You'll see that entire area is essentially open.
Nick? Well, but that labors the point. You've got these vistas. You obviously want to try and preserve them. That's the point of having this campsite over here. That's almost, if you will, the entire point of this particular county park. But nonetheless, it's relatively barren. The question still stands, is there going to be any attempt at landscaping, maybe along the fence line, low-lying trees, things like that, relatively short, anything from Rosa Rugosa on down?
Well, I guess I'm trying to get to that. Because if you notice, I'll take you over then to the design. There's a proposal to retain existing vegetation along the back of the campsites. They back into these sites. I'm not sure if that.
Yeah, I saw that.
So the roadway is actually going to run along our fence, which is going to be just offset. I think it's 8 feet off of the canal itself. And then they back into the site. So there's no opportunity, nor will we want any, to be honest, for screenings, plantings between us and the canal. However, we do want to put plantings and retain what vegetation we can along the back of the sites to provide a buffer between the RV sites and the parking lot. Excuse me. And if you see, that's along the west side of the parking lot, and then if you look along the southern side of the parking lot, that's more variable in width. And we're hoping to retain as much vegetation in there as possible and still accommodate the sites.
So the chain link fence is a low chain, right?
It's either, I'm not sure if it's 4 or 6 foot, but, and there's
It's
a
a single
guardrail.
chain.
There's a chain link, a cyclone fence.
It's going to be a cyclone fence.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, it's really,
Well, I don't,
In terms of safety, it has to be.
yeah.
That's approved.
It's one way,
That's fair.
whether it's 4 or 6 feet, I don't know, but the idea of not having a chain link fence is not appropriate for a family campground like this.
No, well, there are other things that can keep children from falling through that aren't as.
hideous as that. I mean,
Well, a black vinyl chain link fence, we've been using in a lot of other places now, and that seems to be the most, believe it or not, aesthetically
Yeah, they're pretty
disappears.
unobtrusive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
looks nice.
Larry?
Did I hear you say this was gonna be for 1 year?
In what sense? No, this is a permanent facility, but maybe I said that it wouldn't be electrified for at least a year.
Okay. I guess I really have a problem with expanding this. I'd rather see you use one of the existing parking lots and maybe put 10 in, but just seems like we're mowing everything down and denying people the opportunity to walk along the canal. Other than the people that are in the RV, suddenly this will be quasi private property, and it seems to me it's not the right thing to be doing, ripping out more trees and what have you. People go down to that canal and just like to wander around and see what's going on, and here you're making it quasi-private.
We have plenty of pedestrian access to the south of our marina. I don't think I have anything here that shows that, but if you ever go to the park, you ride along the canal for a stretch before you hit Mashut,
Right.
and we have benches set up there, and that's really where the most fishing activity occurs, on either side of the canal, just really within the shadow of the locks, if you could picture, just north of the locks but south of this park, as well as out on the rock revetment on the jetty on the east side of the canal, which will still have park access to. I understand your sense that we're displacing any pedestrian access along this canal, but to be honest with you, it's not something Parks encourages in the first place, just because of the somewhat remoteness of it, whereas we have facilities and accommodation for pedestrians on that south side where we have the walkway, as well as on the jetty itself. Those are really the most popular sites for pedestrian fishing access in this entire area.
The road comes in right over there.
I guess along what you're saying, Larry, I have a lot of issues with this. I've been on this site. I've gone there myself just to sit for a couple of hours, look at the water, contemplate the universe. And one of the things I think is really nice about it is that it is so undeveloped in its kind of rawness, and it disturbs me to see a huge chain link fence. It disturbs me to see that all this effort is being made for a site that is, in its ruggedness, is I think, much nicer. And the fact that it has kind of deteriorated. There's a quality about it that just goes to the rawness of Long Island. And it bothers me that that such efforts are going to serve just a few people. I mean, certainly there are neighbors very close by here, who I'm sure use this park. I've seen kids down in there, and so I don't know. I have a lot of problems with this proposal.
Go ahead, Mike.
I did get a phone call yesterday afternoon from a planner from the town of Southampton. He was actually supposed to email me some comments on this morning, but there were none in my inbox. But their concern was the visual impact from the canal itself. He wanted to know if there were any alternative sites looked at for the RV spaces themselves. And he just wanted to voice his concern about the visual impact.
I support that thought, because I think that you're cutting out, a lot of other people who use this place, in a more low-key way. And I
What if
just,
we got
I
rid
think
of
we have
11,
so many other great
15?
sites.
Eva, I have to disagree with you in terms of low key. If you look at one of the aerials, the primary aerial, you got a marina sitting right there.
No, I know,
on
but
the
when
south side.
I say low key, I mean that, to see these fences going up and everything else, all these other, I mean, I like it the way it is, personally. That's my feeling, but, and that one of the things that, that we're trying to do out on the East End is to not be building stuff so much. Try to keep the more natural feeling of things. So yes, there's a marina there. All right, it's already being used. That's the water. And but this is, it is a more pedestrian site, so I don't know.
Well, I just want to say, this is very much an active and a formal park.
I
so
know that
this
it is, because
not-
I've been there. I've spent time there.
Well, just to your point, I mean, within this area, we have Sears Bellows County Park, which is, depending on what number you want to use, and including Hubbard, the subject of the previous acquisition, we have essentially 3,000 to 3,500 acres within 10 minutes drive of here.
I know that.
A passive park. This park, which we've had since the early 1970s, is essentially all developed. It's true that this vegetative area is proposed to be cleared to accommodate the project, but if you look at the overall aerial, we have a very active marina, we have an active concession, we have a lifeguard protected bathing swimming area. This is a formal park setting, not a passive park setting.
Well, I'm not addressing passive versus active. What I'm saying is it's raw nature the way it is.
But
And
we
that-
accommodate those passive uses in other places as well.
But I'm not talking about passive or active. I'm talking about the way it looks right now, visually. And I think the concern about, from whoever it was from Southampton that called, I think is a good point. You also, it's seeing it from the water side too. So there's a lot of different aspects to this.
I have to disagree with you in one respect. I passed
This
by
is
here
1962. The
and
road is almost
by
in there.
boat,
What happened to the road?
and frankly, it looks like crap. To put it and take that off the record. It's basically just, for the most part, it's scrub vegetation.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe a foot or so high. I'm not talking about anything that's, well, just look at the aerials.
Yeah.
This is like a dredge disposal site from all intents and purposes.
But I
don't see
think the
attractiveness.
rawness of that is one of the things that we're trying to preserve out there. Let things be the way they are, rather than always.
Well, that goes to my question about some of the landscaping to try and improve it, because, again, you go by it, and I have sites like this in my village, and
Well, but
they're
villages are
junk.
different than
What
waterways.
if we scaled back and you didn't do the extra 5 and 11 through 15 aren't there and that's more vegetative roughness?
Well, we could, but those spots, ironically, are in a very cleared area to begin
Right.
with. So there really wouldn't be, if the concern is view of the RVs from the water, that would do nothing to soften that. What I was getting to Mike's point was we were trying to,
Unless you built a berm or something.
that's a possibility. The siting of these individual sites are subject to, you notice some of the trees that are identified in the plan. We're going to make field adjustments to accommodate. It's true that what you guys are looking for in terms of preserving vegetation is the same thing that the campers want as well. Any opportunity they have to differentiate their site and have some sort of screening between them and their neighbor is desirable for them as well. I just couldn't commit to exactly when we're out there installing these. It may be that we're replacing vegetation after the fact rather than retaining what's there now.
Larry?
Well, you already know that I'm sort of negative on this, but I think one of the excitements of this thing is not that there, I recognize you got lots of acreage somewhere else, but the excitement of this is a lock system. And it's fun to go down and just watch the boats go through, watch the current go through. I would suggest before you move ahead with this that maybe you go on a website and look up the canal that connects Puget Sound to Lake Union in Seattle and see what a nice little park they have built along a very similar system as this. Putting these hideous boxes along the canal, I just think is a totally wrong approach. If you want to put boxes somewhere, go hide them somewhere else. But I just think you're destroying something that really is a lot of fun for people that aren't necessarily staying there over the weekend.
Kara?
Who owns this? Is this part of the park, the exit road?
Exit, yes.
Yes, so, I mean, is there a way to, it looks like there's room to kind of extend that down and maybe create more access for people who aren't, who aren't going to be part of the RV park if this gets approved, but, trying to, I hear like the need for that the RV community creates almost an exclusive use because they're setting up shop with their homes there. Is there, and there feels like there's a need for more access by everyone else along the canal. Is there a way to extend either a walking trail along, but within the fenceway that others can use, other than just those who?
Sure. A pedestrian walkway on the inside of the fencing.
Right, kind of
backyard
to
for
increase the
15 to
use by pedestrians that's safe,
go around.
but wouldn't be
No,
just
just-
for those using the
I don't know
RV.
console.
I don't think putting RVs precludes anybody from walking along the canal. It's not like it's a gated community, and the fact that we're picking up, we lost 80 spots, we're picking up 60. I think that's going to actually bring additional people into the facility.
I vehemently disagree, because you're really telling all of the rest of Long Island that they can't go there because it's no fun to walk. Have you ever walked up around a bunch of RVs? It's annoying. It's not a pleasant experience because let me finish, please. They've got their own thing going on, and it really kind of takes away the whole the raw environmental aspect of this property. And there are beautiful RV parks. I'm not saying it's not going to be nice, but I am saying it's not. I don't think it's the right place to do this. I think a much more low key. If you want to clean up the park a little bit, fine. But I think to allow all these RVs here, I think it just takes away the natural feeling of what's going on there. There's so much beauty in its ugly raw state, quite frankly. And I think it's much more serviceable in terms of an environmental piece to the community at large than allowing just these few people the opportunity to take it on for themselves for a period of time.
Christine?
Would it be appropriate for me to ask a question?
Go right ahead.
I've camped and I boat right in the marina, the Shinnecock Marina, and it is quite a beautiful view when you're in the marina with your boat to look over and just see the trees. So some type of buffer would be nice over there. My other concern though is being a camper, people come with their campers, but then they have other people that come and there's additional cars. Where are those additional cars going to be parking? Because I thought that the parking that was along here
60 by 40.
by the marina was for the marina people.
It is. Right.
So where would those additional camping people have their,
Those sites are 60 by 30.
They're allowed an additional vehicle.
Yeah.
they
On the
just one
site.
on the site? So you'll have the trailer and an additional vehicle on the site.
Otherwise, they'd have to park, any additional visitors would have to park in the regular parking lot.
And what about their fire pits? They're going to be allowed to have, or will there be a fire pit at the site for them to use?
It's in propane.
I'm not sure. We don't provide one now. They usually bring their own.
Is that an issue with the boats being so close to them?
They've got their own sources of combustion. I'd worry about as a firefighter.
Mike?
Again, I also know this area. The buffer idea is important. At the same time, you don't want to knock out the view. But again, just looking at the photos, we're not talking about high-class woods or anything like that. Again, to my eye, it looks like dredge spoil in this area, and with the consequent type of vegetation that grows up in poor soils. But I'll throw out one other
indigenous, by the
comment.
way.
I'm sorry?
Which is fairly indigenous.
Yeah, it's completely indigenous. That's the beauty of it.
Well,
Casting value judgments aside.
Okay. Looking at it just for a moment as a value judgment, I've seen places in Florida along the water where they have RVs and they pull in, and if the sites are, got a palm tree or some, a bougainvillea or something like that on the separating the individual sites, it actually becomes very, very nice. It's just, I don't have the, the bias towards the beautification of this site as it exists right now. Though I take what Larry is saying about knocking everything down, I still would say if something happens, you've got to look at a vegetation plan for this that doesn't knock out the view shed on all of this. But now taking up Eva's point for a second, you look at the access road along Shinnecock running on a north-south axis. That's right next to the water. Now on the main area, you've got a companion piece across the canal where the road is somewhat further away. Right now, you're essentially, as Eva is saying, there is a blockage in between basically campsites 1 through about 3. That road runs very close to the water. I don't know how pretty that's going to be.
Is this turn like are they so big that it has to be that big wide
That's as
turn?
tight as it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With
Just
these
to,
things.
Mike brought up on the west side of the canal, the county also owns property there as well. There's a beach, it's not a lifeguard protected swimming
Right.
area. And we do have park users use the west side of the canal as well.
Jim?
According to 62 aerial, there was a road in here already in 1962. I mean, maybe the
Right.
council should look at this because the whole thing, for the most part, was devoid of vegetation, and it probably was a previous spoiled disposal area with some cedars that probably moved back into the area.
And that predates, I think it was, when it was managed, the entire site was managed by DPW prior to parks existing.
And that road, to some extent, some of the remnants is still in there, but
Right.
the road that you're proposing, and maybe I should hand this out. People look at.
Joy?
Tom,
Tom? Tom?
has-
Thanks, Mom, I was getting tired.
Can't see you, you're in my blind spot.
I don't know if you're presenting this as an ultimatum, take it or leave it, but assuming that you're willing to keep considering alternatives, you mentioned at the beginning that you were thinking of trying to avoid the clearing. I'm in that camp too, no pun intended. So I can see the arcs and the need to achieve your goal, which is driving of these what some refer to as road whales. Right now they can't do it. They can't make the turn around the swale, right, around the pea gravel. That's why you have to make this widened area, correct?
Right.
So we have to get a wider turn. And did you say that we have to get more spaces than 10, or is 10 still?
No. No,
okay,
there's
so 10 is a workable outcome.
It's not only the turning radius though, Tom, just they can't no longer physically fit in the new parking lot configuration.
Right, so.
Not just the turn.
So I'm thinking I could see a drawing that gets you 10 or 11 spots with a wide enough turn and then backing in by sacrificing about a third as much of the area as is currently cleared, and they would leave out through the parking lot that they come in through. So the basic question to you is, might you reconsider another tighter configuration that only achieves 10 or 11 spots, or is this the one that we need to pass a recommendation about?
No, it's not. I mean, it's open to some modification. However, when they back into the site, you're talking about now exiting back out the way they came in?
So this is what I'm talking about. The road that you have proposed is an 18-foot wide asphalt road. Make that road follow the outside of the existing parking lot. From the check-in booth, it makes a gradual turn, and it goes back out on the current north edge of the old parking lot. Then you have 4 RVs that butt into and stick out onto the canal, into the fence. And then you might even go side by side halfway out that north side of the parking lot. You get more beach parking on the south side. You get more beach users. You get to keep the buffer that I appreciate Christine's point. The boaters have some rights here. They're going to be looking up at, white stuff. So I would appreciate the consideration of that scenario, which gives you the turning radius, gives you the back-in ability, but particularly hangs on to the thicker part that is vegetated, and maybe even creates some more vegetation in this corner where there's a path. People use it now to walk. Let's let that keep going. It's a pretty well trodden path for whatever reason those people have been using that path. Let's let that keep being the corridor that it is.
Are you referring to, just so I follow, that the roadway would essentially run along the backs of what are identified as spots 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc.?
Yeah, essentially.
Right, that just happens to be the most heavily vegetated area that we were looking to retain.
But
there's a swale there that's there's some topography along the back there. When they graded the parking lot and did the dredge swale to stabilize the canal, that's where it all
They
went.
dropped it there.
Yeah. So the most earth moving would be required by siting the roadway in that area that runs along where we have proposed a split rail fence behind 4 through 7 essentially, if I'm following you right.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you would have them back the units south to the south and then pull back out onto that roadway and exit back into the parking lot, right?
They'll go out the same way they came in. Yeah, so the notion was that this triangle of land, which is vegetated and has some relief.
Is that 11 through 15?
The whole
Yeah,
area that right now isn't being used and is being proposed to be used. Yeah, there'll be a lot of earth moving, and you're going to be making a road and doing. There's all kinds of earth moving going on.
Well,
the net amount of effort can still be applied to get the 11, 10 spaces, and then rework the buffer, the area, the access, the other uses. It just would seem to me, when these folks are not here, you just have nothing. Just.
Well, let me just.
So I was trying to speak on behalf of the sight lines that I agree with, and then the sort of the boaters' rights to do something other than tie up. So again, I'm not here to engineer it for you, but I'm just expressing my opinion about how the existing one seems to me to not be supportable, but something that tucked it in and got back onto the same parking lot might be more able to be supported.
Well, let me just, before we move on, just as a point of clarification, sites 1 through 3, most of 4, and 11 through 15 are all in areas that are essentially devoid of any vegetation.
Currently, yeah.
So reconfiguration as you're proposing, at least in my mind, if I'm following you right, doesn't do anything to soften some of the visual concerns that were raised with respect to views from the water and or the marina. Just as to be fair, just so
Yeah,
everybody
it's flat. It's flat there now, and it would be flat there later. Yeah. I hear you. I was thinking it would become something other than flat if it was going to get all reworked. Let's rework it, promoting what it, the natural growth that could occur.
Marianne?
Yeah. So as I understand it, there are currently 10 RV sites in the parking lot.
And there were.
There were, but last summer.
Right.
Right. So if you're coming down the marina, you can see those 10 RVs in the parking lot, and one of the things that's driving this is to free up spaces in the parking lot.
That was, I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for the fact that our new and improved parking lot precludes the continuation
of RVs.
Of the RVs.
Okay. So I think I want to echo what Tom just said. I one of the things that when I look at this, it's gone from 10 to 15.
Yeah.
And I think it might be more palatable if it were 10. And then if it is 10, it can be configured differently on this, whether it goes Tom's way or your way or someone else's way. But 10 is easier to configure on this than 15, and I would submit that replacing what you had on the existing parking lot is more palatable for me than adding 5 more.
On a 1-for-1, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not sure it does anything to mitigate any of the concerns.
I understand that. I understand. Well, no, visually, there is a difference between 10 and 15. If you look at it this way, if you took 1 through 5 and 11 through 15, all right, and you eliminate 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, that is going to have a visual impact. You don't have back-to-back RVs from the water. It will have a visual, I think it might be small, but I think it would have a visual impact.
But maybe the point is to send you back to rethink and try to maintain some sort of visual, break it down to 10 and rethink it, instead of us trying to say which spots to
Yeah.
keep and which to not
Yeah, you
keep,
can make an
know?
argument that says use the flatland, leave the highlands, and
Exactly,
brush there and go back.
I think one of the things that we need to do in thinking of sustainability, thinking of more effective use of parklands, is that we should be encouraging smaller, not bigger. And that we see this constantly, you know, people go out and buy bigger and bigger boats because they know the county and others will gradually approve the fact that we'll dig channels deeper for boats to get places. We'll clear more areas, well, and, you know, because we increase the size of our RVs from 20 feet to 40 feet. And I just think that we ought to be cutting back in terms of energy, conservation, and you know, just about anything you can think of. Secondly, I want to go back to this business of people being able to enjoy the locks. There are a lot of people that don't own boats, and one of the things that they get out of coming to a place like this is the thrill of boating without actually boating. They can see what it's like to maneuver a boat in a difficult area, and they can just enjoy the challenge that these people are going through to get through the locks and so forth, and the excitement of the water going up and down. And I just think it takes that away from the people that can't afford RVs is inappropriate.
Well, I have to disagree that activity isn't taking place in this spot. The locks, which are a tremendous place to spend some time and watch what goes on, is significantly to the south of this,
right,
as I had mentioned previously. And if you notice in the aerial, we do have a pedestrian, a grass strip that runs along the perimeter of the marina, which provides pedestrian access, as well as still further to the south where we have the benches set up for pedestrian view shed and access to the locks.
Yep, I understood.
Eva?
Well, I have to disagree with what you just said, because I do go there and I sit and I walk around. But if that being said, and all the other things I've said, I agree and I mimic you completely, Marianne, that this 10 is enough. If that's what you have, that's what you should work with. I would keep them all away from the edges, keep them closer to the parking lot. Let them, I don't think everything has to be planted. I think leaving some certain things raw is part of what the earth is made out of. Whether it's spoils that's been there for decades or whatever. And if there's some way to get rid of the fence, I'd get rid of the fence. But
First off, Nick, you've made an excellent presentation. Evidently, we just have a bunch of disparate views. However, I think we're getting a little bit far afield in what we're dealing with at this point in time. I think we should table this particular project. I know that there's reservations out there for these particular campsites, but I think it's obvious around the table that a rethinking of this to some degree or another may be an alternative that you should look into. If you guys at Parks think that this is the way to go, and you can't change it, that this is a plan written in stone, then you come back at the next meeting and say, for whatever reason, this is what we got to do, and we go for an up and down vote. If it's possible, however, to look at some alternatives as have been suggested around the table, if that's possible to do without messing up your schedules or anything like that, it's something I think that you should look into, and I would suggest eventually to the council that we table this to give you time.
Well, before you formally introduce that, I'd rather make those accommodations now if possible.
Should we be the ones who were designing this? You're going to get 10
No, but
different...
I am, and I can speak to the departments. What I heard was a proposal to reduce from 15 to 10, and Parks can certainly live with that. I heard two competing proposals about which 5 to eliminate. I heard Eva, if I heard you correctly, your proposal would be to retain 1 through 10 as currently configured, and do away with 11 through 15. And Tom, I think you left it up to Parks one way or the other, which 5 go.
Yeah, I didn't appreciate the where the thicket actually was, I kind of thought it was 7 through 10, but I was not doing the photographs in my mind correctly. So I'm not going to tell you which ones to keep. My concept was to use the asphalt, if you will, that you have where it's appropriate and just borrow into this land where that was where I started. But you know, you could put 5 on the flats and you could put 4 in the parking lot because they only have to go like that and get back. So do as you would, but I think you heard my concern, which was try to work around the stuff that has been able to grow up there because it creates some vista.
And that would put us at, just for everybody's understanding, that would put us, in my opinion, in having 1 through 5 and 11 through 15.
Something like
Even-
That would minimize to the greatest extent the vegetated area, but that would
It'll ruin the views
take
from the
up the
boaters and
most
along
of
the
the
canal.
I really object to seeing it the 11 through 15, because in my view, even if you have to move a little bit more earth around, you're going to be moving so much earth around anyway with what's going on here. To me, it doesn't matter, and it's such a disturbed area. I think to stay away from the 11 through 15 is a more visually acceptable realm. I think the tighter it is to the parking lot, because they're vehicles, so they're all still in the vehicle realm.
And then, if you got rid of 11 through 15, maybe the fence comes to the road, and then the empty space
is left open to,
and the fence doesn't have to come.
Yeah, I loiter sometimes.
11 through 15 is clearly better for the visuals.
To get rid of
If
those.
you say so.
Get rid of
There's
those.
consensus
of
for the council to eliminate the 11 through 15, and Parks is prepared to move forward with retaining 1 through 10.
And the fence
Moving the
moving.
fence up is fine. That I can make that commitment to you now.
Oh, well,
you're gonna do
you're gonna
1
have to
through-
back in and out, so there might be some room, need some room.
Trade-off, basically, one way or the other.
There are a lot of trade-offs
Yeah.
here. I think if you eliminate 11 through 15, you're going to disturb a lot more.
Yeah.
And this is 6 of one, half a dozen
It's
of
spoiled,
another.
though,
It
already.
really
It's
is.
spoiled.
I
I mean,
think
that's-
the
so
fact
who
that
cares?
Nick is committing to 10 instead of 15 is, to me, very significant. And I don't walk down there, Eva, and I don't camp there, right? So I don't know, and I don't boat there. I don't know really if from the water, if there are 5 sites, 11 through 15, as opposed to 6 through 10, the way they're cited on this map, is there going to be a significant visual difference from the water?
Yes.
There is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
11 through 15, you have stuff right on the water.
Yeah.
But
Whereas we're
what's
knocking
the
down trees.
distance between 14 and 8? How many feet are we talking?
20 to 25.
Yeah, but you still see them. They're still you're still.
But you're going to see everything anyway.
Yeah, but the further away it is,
25 feet is going to make
Well, maybe
a
they can do a
significant. I don't
berm
get
for
it.
11 through
I don't
they
get
could
it.
burn
I don't-
anyway. Get rid of them and berm that whole area. Then that would block the whole
Right.
the whole
If there's-
sight line. If that whole
Would it
area,
be
if 11 through
vegetation on the
15 became
south side
burned
of the
up,
road?
Well,
you know,
I'd like to see
then
some there.
then
I'd like to
the
see.
vehicles that are close to the
But-
parking lot
wait,
are
wait,
not
wait.
visible.
The whole point here is to leave it
Yeah,
as
just up or
is,
down.
natural. You like it
Yeah.
the way it is.
Yeah.
So don't berm it up.
Well, but they're doing something. I'm saying don't do anything.
All right. You have your. All right.
All right.
I am so opposed to berms.
Too bad. Too bad.
All right.
Okay.
We've
Okay.
already discussed perhaps tabling this to next month, and Nick
But I
has
don't.
expressed
You don't want it tabled.
that he
right?
wants. That's what I'm going.
No.
Nick has expressed his opinion that they're under a tight
I
deadline.
think we need to see something that's workable.
Steve.
When are your first reservation dates that, for the now non-existent RV sets?
May 15th.
He's under some severe
Yes.
time constraints here.
I didn't want to bring that up because I know how you guys react to.
Too bad.
And that's not why, and I don't want you to even to consider that. I hesitate to even mention. I just wanted to explain the history of how we got to this point. When I spoke to you to this earlier, when I said I wouldn't be here today specifically if it weren't for the fact that we just eliminated our RV camp rental from there.
Floor.
You need 5 spaces.
We
Really, the berm in the middle, that was the pea gravel drainage area that you have created, has blocked the use of all 10 of the slots that are there now. Let's pretend we can't move that pea gravel, so it is what it is.
Oh, you can't. I mean, it's a significant
Right. So,
structure.
that's a given. The footage between the pea gravel and the back of the parking lot is inadequate. If you took 8 more feet, you then get back whatever you used to have.
Yes.
The pea gravel didn't wipe out the entire passageway. You just lost some footage. If you grab a little bit more of that parking lot, let's just say 8 feet for discussion's sake, you got 5 spots back. Then we
Okay.
only have to find space for 5 more.
But Nick, I just want to interrupt real quick, Tom. I know, I've been to this park many times myself. When you first come in at the little gate, you have that lower parking lot that we can see part of it on this
Yes.
photograph. And I realize, you lost the parking for the RVs because of the stormwater concerns and the reconfiguring of the parking lot. Why can't you just take those 10 RV spots and put them in this initial little parking lot at the front and not disturb anything and leave it as it is?
Just past the entrance.
Yeah.
You can, you could physically do it for sure. It's right on top of our residential neighbors to the immediate
East. Okay.
All right, generators will kill them.
So they will be very upset.
There's really no buffer between us and the residential neighborhood there. And I've been out there quite a bit recently for this project. I took a look at that as well because I thought that would be a potential alternative as well.
It's loud though,
Yeah.
That would be.
It's really
It's
picking a fight
loud.
with,
Yeah.
wouldn't be
Go
appropriate.
ahead, Mike.
Okay. We're at sort of an impasse, and we do have a time deadline on us to some degree. And I promise, at least for myself, I will not react to the time deadline. I thank you for not really bringing that up earlier. Basically, it's a concern, if you will, 2 different views, if I'm understanding what's going on here correctly, as to which one of the issues has a major priority. Either knocking off 11 through 15 to create a view shed, or else knocking off some of, say, 4 through 10, that area where we have to clear. Is that basically what we're seeing right now? It's one or the other? That's what I'm kind of seeing right now. If Nick is under the gun, and they have to make a decision on the fly, and Nick is saying he can make a decision on the fly, I don't know that it's really, we should, micro-engineer any of this. We should just basically make a decision one way or the other. Both sides, if you will, have impacts. The 11 through 15 has an impact upon the visual. The sites 4 through 10 have an impact upon the scrubland, such as it is over there. If we have to make a decision, if those are what they boil down to, I think we should, decide majority rules on either one or the other and just live with it. Because both sides.
The fence is still also an issue. If you can move the fence.
Yeah, well, that would be concomitant with it. And hey, I'd like to see some vegetation by it. But those are the issues that I'm seeing, if you will, right now that we've been discussing. I say we just take an informal poll, one way or the other, as to which way we want to do something, if this is indeed what Parks wants to do. Evidently there's no other place to put it. We can't put generator-bearing vehicles near houses. Those things are annoying as all heck.
Yeah.
And I understand about the trees being knocked down, but,
All right, let's do a straw poll.
Okay.
How many of you would be comfortable with moving this forward with the proviso that 11 through 15, as they are drawn on the current sketch, are not developed? The bottom ones. All right, we have 3, 4. How many would prefer to see 11 through 15 stay and get rid of, let's say, 6 through 10, and then you keep 1 through 4, so you have your 10 spaces?
Can I go to option C?
What's
which-
C then, Tom,
which
please?
Yeah.
Tries to make some marginal increase to the existing parking lot to get
Right.
back use of at least 5 of those spots that we are walking away from. It seems like a lot
the
of.
question then is
Yeah,
for Nick,
I
is
vote-
that
Yes,
viable?
is that
For
possible?
C.
I vote for C.
Is that viable, Nick, for you?
That I can't speak to. I'm not sure I
Do
understand.
you understand what I mean? Though?
No.
Basically.
I do.
The south side of the parking lot
Of the existing
has
parking
5
lot.
spots.
Right.
Right.
Right now they can't get in and out of them because the pea gravel's in the way. They're just too narrow. If you take that parking lot and clear 8 or 10 feet, which looks like it's already kind of white sandy anyway in the view from the
Extend the
helicopter.
parking lot surface to the south.
enough to let those
Enough to let those
be
five-
five viable spots again.
Yes.
Just get enough marginal to get those five back. Then let's try to place five more.
Which
Which five?
which five are you
4,
talking
5,
about?
6, and 7?
He's
See
talking
these
about
here?
4, 5, 6,
The,
and 7.
the five that back up to the.
That's 4, 5, 6, and 7.
And maybe 3. You're
no,
talking
it's not
3
4,
through
5, 6, and 7. It's the parking lot.
Yeah, I know,
Right.
but
No,
in terms of the key map,
The key map.
Look
It's
at
the
Which
key map of the
They
development,
want to know which.
that's what we're trying to
sites are
orient.
Those back into the
Alright.
lot.
If
You
you
want 3,
So
4, 5,
put-
6, and 7.
Put 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 back in the parking lot.
Right,
Oh, continue backing up and get right back into the existing parking lot?
yes.
Yeah.
So tighten that
You
up so
just-
you have more
And
paving,
then, but
we're
then
paving
what do
up.
to get to that spot, I still have to clear the areas already proposed to be the spot itself.
More or less, more or less, yeah.
So what, I'm not,
Yeah.
that I don't understand.
It's tightening,
that
but
game.
it's tightening everything up towards the parking lot where all the vehicles are anyway.
I don't think that's what Tom said.
Yeah,
Tom, are you suggesting that the existing parking lot be made wider?
Yeah,
To
yes.
extend out,
Essentially,
capture
yes.
3 through 7.
to the
Okay.
south
He's
on
drawing
an
it.
east-west axis.
And
Okay.
Keep going for that matter.
I
The
know.
existing parking lot, come in as you usually come in, go out as you usually go out, make a wider turn here, but get 5 by
Right.
just taking a little bit more from the existing parking lot. Can you see that?
And angle 4, 5, 6, and 7 the different way.
I don't know where.
Or-
I don't know. I'm not doing this part yet. I'm just trying to make
Yes.
use of this parking lot because it's not completely unavailable. We
Talking
have
about
to
going
just
like
get a little
this.
bit more to it. So there's 5. Now we got to get 5 more. 1, 2,
You
3,
need 2
4.
more.
I don't know.
But for
But
that matter,
then we just stopped dealing with all this stuff out here. We stopped this whole access road because go back out the way we came in.
Thank
That
you.
was what I
Thank
was
you,
trying
Tom.
to go
Can
for.
speak to.
Yeah, you lose your access road actually, because 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 don't get service.
You don't need 'em.
But you're gonna get
Well,
get
it-
rid of 11 through 15, and you tighten it up towards 10.
I think you still need the access road.
But you may still need the access road,
Well, the
but
good
you
part
just
about
tighten
that
it all
is
up.
if that access road is actually the path that it seems like it's a pretty beaten path, but maybe it's the boaters going out to the end or something like that. So
Well, there was
if
a
there's
road
got-
in there
If there's
previous.
going to be a road and a path, maybe that's if it's.
But you have to improve
RCA.
it for these vehicles. These vehicles sink in.
That's understandable, but you tighten it up. You have to have the
Essentially
big
on the
swing because they have to be able to turn around to get to that side, but you tighten it up.
All right, so basically then what you're saying is eliminate 11 through 15, have say spaces 4 through around 10 come in off of the main parking lot by backing the parking lot boundaries, which right now are on the east-west back axis, pulling them south by say 8 or 10 feet, and having those spaces again around 4 through 10
Yeah, keep
come
going. I
onto
mean,
the
keep
parking
going.
lot.
Keep
have the
going.
whole
Right, make the whole
backside of the
thing.
parking
Right.
lot be
Right,
angular
exactly.
drop-ins.
Right.
Right.
The beach
Right.
the beach users get the front 5 that we lost,
Right.
and
Well, the question is whether Nick can do that or not.
I can't speak to that. I can't speak to re-engineering the parking lot, which we just replaced to accommodate.
or-
I'm not saying that that's your issue, it's mine.
It,
So
it
that
sure
goes to
feels
the
like
table.
less engineering than
Yeah.
a whole road.
No, but you need
Well-
the road anyway.
Well,
No,
some
just
version
the
of
way
it.
the
Not
drainage
exactly the way.
system has been installed, I couldn't say. I'm not in a position to tell you
We have no spaces like this, and these guys
Was
are
this
up here, what do you need?
before you redid the parking lot?
Yeah.
yes.
So we don't.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we
yeah.
don't know what the new parking lot looks like.
It's got-
We're working off an aerial that doesn't show us what the new
what's the
parking
date?
It's a
lot.
I'm sorry, yeah.
2010.
And the new parking, and this doesn't represent either the median accurately. I can tell you that we can't, the RVs cannot be accommodated to make the turn at the end of the median. So at the far west end of the parking lot, they can't make the turn to get around the median.
Yeah, that's got to be a much bigger.
But even if you
But you're
left,
talking about backing from the existing road and back
no,
into Unit
no.
4.
But even if you left that curve and came around, and just positioned the vehicles tighter up.
This has got to be much more. But once it's wide.
I don't see how Tom can still
think-
push this out here and have
Oh,
these here and not have
yeah.
the road. They're not going to be able to get all these
I
parking
think we
areas.
ought to
Yeah,
just have a
exactly what exactly.
That's
motion that says
Keep it tighter in
it's got
here.
I can't
eliminate
say.
10
And you might be able to
in
park
existing
one over, you might be able
area
to park one
and
over here,
incorporate
one or
5
two,
in
maybe
those
over in
areas.
this corner.
Yeah, you might get
But-
12 if you.
But keep everything
let
away
him
so that this
figure it out.
basically
Yeah.
stays the way it is. You're gonna have a
We're not the
road
ones who
here.
should be engineering this.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no, you
One-
can't.
Yes,
We
one or
can't
two.
I
put
agree.
broad
Yeah, we really should.
bounds on it.
I don't
All
think we
right.
should have A, B, or C. I think if
Right.
we have a motion that says
Right.
drop 5,
Exactly. Thank you, Tom.
hold it to 10.
And 5 in
gain
the
something.
parking lot, in the existing parking lot.
But
Well, that's up to
Keep
them.
going.
That's up to them.
no.
I would go with C.
Nick, go ahead. You want to say
I think
something?
it's now up to you guys. It sounds like it's going to be a tabling, which is fine. Parks will work under that, but I can't speak to, unless, I don't know if Commissioner can, but I don't want to put him on the spot. I cannot, A and B we could work with, or I could work with you guys on. C is beyond me. It speaks to the project that we're just about to complete. I have no idea what kind of worms that opens for us.
Well, we're just asking to be considered, I suppose.
Well, that's an alternative. I mean, we can consider this. I have to consult with DPW as our, they're our resident engineers. They're the ones who design and install the parking lot. I can take this to them and ask the question, and it's up to the CEQ to decide whether or not they're interested in or comfortable with. If we go to DPW, they say it's not workable. If you want to know the reasons why, then that points to a tabling to me. Or an alternative would be that you authorize Parks to then move forward with either A or B. In the absence of this C, then that's something I can work with, but it's up to you guys.
We've got time deadlines, that's the problem.
Commissioner Dawson, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just, Nick said pretty well. We're pretty comfortable with A or B. C, we'd have to check the
Well,
DPW and Jim Barr.
With regard to the scheduling and this thing that we like to avoid being pinched into, here we are. You have an obligation to some leasees, whatever the real term is for them. You don't have an obligation to the beach parkers that are over here on the south side of that parking lot. So you could let the leasees come in whatever day they're due and just park along the curb, and they can have their happy day with a generator if they want. So you're not, by taking more time and engineering it
Properly.
we're not going to blow up and piss off somebody who's paying $14. I don't know what the rate is, but let them be in the parking lot and just lose some of the beach parkers that probably weren't going to be there in May anyway.
Yeah.
I think that's a
How many
wise
spots did we lose, you think?
direction.
Well, you're losing them for for the work
But
for
we
the
picked up
construction
60, so if we
period.
lose 60, we're in net.
My issue
You
is
still,
that,
yeah,
Tom,
for
if I
time
follow
being.
it correctly, it would require the removal of the existing curb that was installed along the south end of the parking lot, right?
In the shortest term, the people that we want to honor in May and June,
Right.
They use the existing parking lot.
Yes.
That's right.
Can't they
They can't
come
make
in
the
here and
turn.
just go right parallel? Is that parallel?
They
Yeah, that's
can't make
parallel.
this turn. That was his whole point.
Yeah, they can. If you keep these unused, they can certainly make that. Look what they used to make. They used to make the turn in
Yeah,
that
I
space.
see. Oh, I see.
Exactly.
Don't use the bottom four and let them
Yeah.
Okay,
move
I'm with
around
you.
there.
Okay.
And then those that have to be there, let them be there wherever you
And
want.
just
In all
where they-
versions of C, I'm in agreement.
We gotta table it.
I would like to see
And
this
let them do
table.
this
And let them do
temporary
this. Yes.
use of that parking lot.
Okay. Is there a motion to table this?
Make a motion to table this.
And continue to
And
let them
continue to
re-examine?
work on it, re-examine it, and come back to us as soon as possible.
But I think you have to add what Jim said,
Go ahead, Jim.
Which is,
temporary use
Parking,
of the parking lot.
Do we
For
have
the
to say that in
RVs.
the motion?
Well, the
don't think
RVs
so.
were already in the
No,
parking
yeah.
lot.
Yeah, so I don't think
It's an
there's anything
existing, it's just extension of the existing situation.
right.
However, when it gets reworked, you have to give Nick guidance, okay?
Yes.
What lots don't you like? How many things do you think you want to accommodate in there? And what do you want to ultimately achieve from an environmental point of view, so
Okay,
we can go back and work with this thing?
Okay, so we would like, in reviewing what you're going to do, we'd like to see address the issues of the sight lines, of the fence, of tightening up the paved areas close to the existing parking lot with the new design, to keep the vegetation, even if you have to cut into the existing, whatever that vegetation area is, because that's it, I guess.
And limiting the parking spaces for the RVs
To
to
10.
Right, that's the easiest of them.
Okay.
I mean, Also, because this is so controversial to some extent, this short form doesn't really cover the issues from an environmental point of view. I think a long form should be put in there. I would have liked to seen a topo, because Nick mentioned a swale and some other things which I have no idea how the topography is moving, as well as an updated aerial for showing what the new revised parking lot is going to look like. And a long form has a visual addendum which you got to deal with to some extent.
And the long form would have brought out the fact that they couldn't use the existing lower parking lot because of the neighbor's issue. with
Right.
having,
Right.
You know, all those other details.
Right.
Okay, we had a motion to table this, and with the issues that he's got to look back at, come back with. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Rich. Okay. All those in favor?
Okay.
Motion passed.
Thank you.
Nick, can I ask you a question about the swale? This goes to a situation down in Stony Brook where they built a swale, but in the center of it, and this is elevated probably about 5 or 6 feet above knee-high water. In the center of the swale, they planted spartina. And I thought all spartina required some covering with salt water. Is that, am I wrong on that?
This is a parking lot, median?
Yes.
Yeah.
Down by the Stony Brook, the Brookhaven parking lot in Stony Brook.
Ordinarily, I'd say Larry was crazy, but I saw it also.
But they've built this swale, and there's gravel around it, and then they put a row of spartina about 5 or 6 feet.
Way up.
And I saw the plants labeled spartina, and I'm just puzzled.
There's no connection to the existing.
Unless the roots grow 5 or 6 feet deep, maybe they do. I don't know.
It could be the soil, sir.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Nick. Sorry. Sorry for the contentious,
Sorry.
Well, you love it.
They came up with this plan.
Why wasn't the RV thing considered when they redesigned the parking lot?
Yeah, I agree. You should have all done it.
Yeah.
Okay, would everyone like to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll move on? We have a few more big things to look at. Tom, what?
Well, I just have hard stops I have to leave.
Okay. Or shall we just plow ahead?
Not right
Well, you
now.
have more than one commercial form.
Yeah.
You just go ahead.
Plow ahead? Okay. We're on to the draft of the CEQ bylaws. We're not going to take a break. Everybody wants to just plow ahead. Alrighty.
What was important about
So what are we doing?
We're going through the CEQ
Oh, we're not
bylaws?
for 5
How's
minutes?
that?
No, everyone wants to get moving.
You know, Larry, it suddenly occurs to me that thing.
Mike, you can come out to my RV if you want to take a break.
Maybe it's salt.
What was important, Michael? What are we supposed to do here?
To review them,
Do you have a
if anybody has questions about certain areas of
Well, they
it.
were in
Yeah.
the packet last time.
Yeah,
What's section 8.03, the capital program review meeting? Do we have that?
We
I'm
used
on
to.
page 7.
The CEQ used to have a capital program review meeting every year, however, things have changed and it doesn't really
it was
go.
removed because originally the county code had a section in it that explicitly had the council review the capital program and make recommendations. That has since been taken out of the county code itself.
That's fine.
So I took it out of the bylaws.
Right.
To be
But tell me,
consistent.
Jim, since
Oh.
you were here when we had that, was that an important thing? What was the function? And was it fruitful?
Well, the
Brackets are
council
removed.
used to review all capital program items and make a recommendation to the planning department and the legislature as to what would be required under SECRA in the early,
okay. All right.
early on.
planning stages.
Yeah.
That got changed in that old court decision, right?
No, I mean,
Did it flowed from that? Don't worry about
no, it actually flowed from the capital program, but the minute you place something in a capital program, it doesn't make it a done deal. It's just simply a guideline for the future, and it says that before the county can appropriate monies, secret has to be complete.
Okay, and that's what we do later on.
It was part of the planning steps, thing where the council would advise the legislature as to this is a type 1 action requiring EAF, this is a type 2 unlisted action, and then what would be required and whether or not a lead agency needs to be
Good
set or
enough.
not.
Thank you.
Alrighty, let's just go through any concerns with Articles 1, 2, or 3. They're pretty basic. And how about Article 4, duties and responsibilities?
One of the things that caught my attention, in some places, it says assist and advise. On the third bullet, it says advise and assist any department for, shouldn't it be upon request?
On the third bullet of which section?
Section 4, 4.02.
This
Otherwise, any department can be talking about something, and the CEQ can just jump up and say, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, but
This
that's
is the
charter
language, right, this language was pulled straight from the charter. so
Straight,
we
it's in the
want
charter.
to Keep it
And
consistent.
that's the exact way it's written.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, the council does have the right to comment on any project or activity in the county and advise the county executive and the legislature on something they feel that will have environmental impact. They don't need to have anything sent to them.
Okay, and then just, it puts it more in perspective when someone's asking you than when you're
Offering
giving
unsolicited
your
advice.
But this
unasked opinion.
this has been a contentious issue in the past, and going back to probably the mid-'90s, should the CEQ be proactive or not? And the legislature sort of slapped us down when we did get proactive, but several cases we have, and most recent, I think, is that we got very proactive in the sewage review. And we might not have ever been asked had we not been willing to step up.
All right.
We got involved in the plastics law, I think, without invitation. So there are occasions where I think it's been important. We ought to at least leave the option that we want to do that with some risk of being slapped down.
The other thing is on the historic trust responsibilities, serve as voting members of the Suffolk County Historic Trust. Does that mean all the members of the CEQ serve?
Yes, you are the historic trust.
The historic
We
trust.
have dual responsibilities.
So when the historic trust subcommittee makes a recommendation, they make it to the CEQ,
Yes.
and then the CEQ
As the
votes on it.
historic trust.
That's right, because the standing committee is not the trust.
And most of the CEQ's resolutions have an approval as the historic trust, as well as the secret recommendations.
Gloria, I didn't receive this. So I'm seeing this and the revisions for the first time right now.
It was in your packet last month.
It came out last month, and we
Yeah.
tabled it because we ran out of time for this month.
It was sent out.
It was sent out last month.
Did I
You might
have
not
it?
have
Yeah.
received it
I have
being.
3 copies of it.
She's only a
You might not have
No.
received it being a CAC
Yeah.
member.
Did I receive it?
No.
Was it in your packet?
because she's a
It
CAC
wasn't
Said
member.
it
sent
wasn't
to
sent
me.
to you, okay.
That's what I'm saying. And since section 7 is about section 701 is all about CAC participation. And I speak to that frequently. I would have liked to review it.
There are no changes.
There are no changes.
I understand that there are no changes, but maybe I would like to introduce a change, particularly receiving county-wide parks materials for review. Because although I'm Huntington, I'm also Suffolk County resident. So,
Yeah, but that isn't covered for on the original type of situation.
we
You know,
just-
otherwise you'd let any resident here vote on a county park. You have the right to comment, but not have a vote if it's not in your town.
Can we just make an adjustment for her? Let her make sure she's pretty much of a regular member.
I'm
Give her
talking
the
about
paperwork.
materials.
Yeah, send her the
I'm
paperwork.
asking you to authorize Christine to send a copy to Joyce Squires because she's at every meeting.
Exactly.
You have said, Jim, it's a problem because all the CACs would want it, but all the CACs don't come. So I request that accommodation.
Well, yeah, but I don't necessarily think that should be put into the bylaws. I
No.
But we
think-
can, yeah, we can have you included on all mailings.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it would be, but this is a perfect time to raise the issue because we haven't
It's $2
ever
more.
time
No, I
to
don't have a
talk
problem.
about this.
No,
So
that's fine.
Send it.
We could absolutely do that. And I apologize for having not done that in the
That's okay.
past.
She
So
deserves it.
Christine,
I'll do it.
all right.
You'll be
Okay.
sorry, Joy.
Yeah.
No, I'm not sorry.
That was a joke.
because-
That was a joke.
Because I lean over to Rich McTay and see his maps with these significant issues that I won't keep my
You won't
so
have
be it.
seen them, and you're not as effective as you
Gloria?
would want to be.
Yes.
I have no
On
problem
this
with that.
topic, Richard Martin has to lean over and read my copies because he doesn't get a packet and he attends every meeting and he often finds things of historic interest and I would request that Richard be put on that list.
Okay. That's fine.
Do it inter-office mail, no extra postage.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the
Thank you,
copies
Maria.
cost.
You're welcome.
Mm. Email it.
All right, let's get
If-
back.
If you go to section G,
Of what?
Of what?
Page 3.
page 3. Liaison with executive and legislature. This is a problem I had with my own planning board in the town of Huntington when I was director. We made recommendations to the town board, to the, and to the zoning board of appeals. One of the things I did, I worked very closely with my town attorney, or the town attorney's designee to the board. And the reason is, if you get sued, you're not representing the board in court, the attorney is. And the attorney should be in agreement with what you're doing, your recommendations. No, you're wrong. You can't do that. Yes, you're right. You can do that. Now, more often than not, I think we know more about SECRA than the attorneys know. Especially some attorneys.
I've been on here 20 years,
Oh, that was a
Rich.
joke, Michael.
I've been doing this 32 years. How's that?
I outran Rich.
Nevertheless, I think
You have
maybe,
a county attorney's office?
Oh, yeah, the county attorneys, except for Jenny Kahn, forget about it. Should we add you want us to add
wanna
the
add the
attorneys
county
as a
attorney?
The
liaison?
county attorney's
That's
office
fine.
does come.
Yeah.
That's what
Tom Young.
Tom Young
Tom
is.
Young does.
He was outside here earlier a little while ago.
So you're just asking to make it formal?
Yeah. That's not a
But you
problem.
want-
Is it a liaison?
We send everything to county attorney's office.
Yeah.
We did.
yeah.
Everything goes to them.
Well,
That's
that's
true,
the way
they're-
it should be,
they're
but I'm
in the
just
loop with
saying that
everything.
But whether or not they
There's
show up is
nothing-
another story.
formally in the bylaws that says that you have to, or
Yeah, but
that
this
you...
isn't a
Have a
chart.
I don't see a problem with that. Just add the language of the attorney
I don't know if it's in the charter or we
Put
just
another bullet in.
took it
Yeah.
from
in the attorney.
the original.
All right.
Michael,
bullet
is
in the
that,
attorney.
is that satisfactory with you?
Slow.
That's fine with me.
Add a bullet?
Yeah.
But you're just checking now.
I just want to check if it's from the county charter or just the original bylaws.
Do you really want us talking to attorneys? I don't know.
You propose in G, adding a bullet.
If we ever want to do anything, we don't talk to the attorney.
Well, you remember what happened.
Yeah, it was just from
You
the
weren't there,
original
but
bylaws,
You
not from the charter
were
itself,
very
so we
high in my
could
estimation.
put it in there.
One of the few times when you told
You
the
guys
attorney's
see
office,
fit.
yeah,
Oh, man.
I mean, we do
so
send
that
it to
the
the
county attorney
legislative
can't
budget.
turn around sometime in the
wasn't aware.
future and say, but you didn't,
Pass this across my desk. I don't know what it's about.
yeah.
Michael reminds me of something that I don't know if it belongs in the charter or not, but is an issue. The county attorney is supposed to be our attorney. But in fact, the county attorney on several occasions in the very recent past has not been our attorney. He's been the county exec's attorney and actually not served our functions very well. And should there be a provision in here that we have the authority to have outside counsel when it's appropriate?
I would.
Well, then it has to be
Disagree.
budgeted for.
Question?
That's
Maybe
serious.
since we serve the legislature,
Everything goes to the legislative council too. I mean,
right?
we deal with
So
George.
isn't the legislative council our attorney?
Realistically, we have coverage one way or the other.
No. But Larry's point is well taken.
That's not something I think we should get into. The situations have been, you don't want to take on a bear if you don't have to. And most of the time,
But I want to.
okay, well, Larry wants to. Larry,
Yeah, I agree with-
myself,
I'm with
Jim,
Larry.
and Rich went through that little meeting where it was a nightmare where we were getting, frankly, very bad advice and we were being muscled. And Larry actually stood up and said, I think we need special counsel. Okay, that's something maybe we should do on the fly. I don't think that should go in here.
Yeah, I
That
don't
takes
either.
on the legislature and that takes on the executive. And it's not something that we can request in that we are advisory. If we were a line authority, for example, the planning commission of the county, which has executive authority in certain ways, or if we were a ZBA at town level or a planning board, then you can go for special counsel. And they often indeed will have special counsel separate from the town or municipalities' regular counsel. But in this situation, I think that that's very much bearding the lion, and I would recommend against it.
Yeah, I think you're right, but the other side of it is, suppose the legislature takes a recommendation from the CEQ and makes a decision on SECRA, and the legislature is, now the CEQ doesn't get sued, the legislature gets sued, and they lose. And everybody sits around and says, those damn CEQ people, they don't know what they're doing, let's disband them, let's do all these horrible things to them. If it's required that we coordinate with the town attorney, I'm still thinking on a town level, with the county attorney or the legislative attorney, whichever it be, where was our legal advice?
Well, that would be an error on their part, or that's called documentation. But to the extent, again, that we're an advisory body, I don't really think we have the ability, nor should we have the ability to go for or even request special counsel.
I'm not
we can
saying
get
special counsel.
They are
What he's
included.
you're going back to what you were originally
Yeah,
saying. Yeah,
yeah.
adding the county attorney or the legislative attorney as a liaison, no problem. But special counsel, as Larry is saying, I get very, very jumpy about is what it boils down to. Even though we were in that situation, and remember, I told you guys that we were going to be lied to. Okay, I knew this was going to be happening at that meeting.
Okay, Tom?
I heard to Mr. McTay's recommendation about a fifth bullet on who we liaison with. It took me a little while, but I kind of started getting a gut sense of, are we then obligating ourselves to do due diligence on everything that we think about? And then you just use the word required with regard to this relationship to an attorney. If that's your intention, I would not want to go there explicitly. I think we're better off leaving it silent and using the backups and the mechanisms that we have to object or to rely on people that we want to rely on. To pull it out as a fifth bullet, then is that your intention, to make us then check with an attorney for each of these things that we do?
Mike actually does a fair amount
Just
of
to
that.
inform the
So it's not a requirement.
appropriate
as you
attorney,
name.
I don't know which it would be,
Right.
But you said
that,
that anyway.
you know,
That's part
They
of
get
the
a
part.
this is what's
FCC.
before us,
So then it's a moot
and
point.
when we make a decision,
This is what
send
we
them what our
decided,
decision
yeah.
is.
We
Let
did it.
them come back and say, you're wrong,
Well,
or you're right.
Mike already does a lot of that
That's
right now.
part of the
Yes.
process.
That's part
It's
of
an
the process.
established procedure to
Yeah.
link
Okay.
with the legislative council as well as the county attorney's office and the county exec's office and everybody else is to send.
Presiding officer.
Believe me, again, we had Tom showed up outside there about 2 minutes ago. I saw him over there. He's sort of monitoring a little bit of what's going on. We always have access to counsel for the ledge and counsel for the executive. Lord only knows, Mike has called him.
I deal with-
Jim has called him.
I
I've
deal with
talked to
county attorney's
the
office. I
county.
deal with the legislative counsel's office.
I've dealt
They're
with them.
copied on all the mailings. They're in the
Yeah,
loop.
okay, I mean,
The chair of
they're in the loop, like you
Yes.
say, but it's not
You
formally.
can't,
Right.
right, but you can't force them to read it, but they were provided,
Yeah.
and that's the bottom
I
line.
mean, they may
Well,
round
that's very
file
important
everything,
because then
everything
they
you
can't
send
say
them,
we never
But they
saw
have it.
either.
Joy?
I have a tiny addition.
But before,
If it's-
I'm sorry. I just don't know. Are we adding that bullet?
No,
or
we're
we
not.
Okay.
Stop it.
Go ahead, Joy.
It's on the first page, the definition of CAC, to make it consistent with Article 47 in
No.
D. You should say Article 12F, 239 X and Y.
Okay.
And where's that reference?
That's changed.
to?
That's a
Page
state
one,
law,
State
Article
Article
municipal
47.
law. In its
This.
item C,
Oh, 4D.
defining CACs
D.
on page 1,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Should be consistent with state
provisions
law.
of Article 12F,
Mm-hmm.
239 X and Y. To make it consistent in the DEC, Article 47, Title Part 636, establishing
Gotcha.
environmental management council.
Yeah.
I want money.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, let's get back over to page 3, and move on from there. Okay, Article 5, membership, Section 5.02, voting members. Is it 11? Is it 10? What are we here?
We're 11.
We're 11?
According to the charter,
It's 11
It's
now.
11. We're only 10 are appointed. There's one current vacancy.
And what the charter reads and the official is a quorum of the council are a quorum of those members duly appointed and seated.
Mm-hmm.
Because when there are vacancies, if you had to determine the 11th, that's 7. But because we only have 10 members seated right now, the quorum's 6, not
Okay.
7.
The vacancy is which town's appoint?
No.
There's no
No, there's
town.
not.
We're countywide.
Right, right.
It's
So-
countywide.
Oh, and then we have CAC members.
See,
No.
Yeah, but they don't have a vote.
Okay,
in
so
the
the
same way.
vacancy right
The
now
vacancy is just
One
an
member.
open
One member.
vacancy.
Okay.
And does the presiding officer know that?
Yeah.
I
think so, yes.
It was made known when the vacancy originally happened, a couple of years ago.
They know about it. What happens is they can't actually find members who don't have conflicts.
Yeah.
They're actually, believe it or not, they have problems with finding full membership for us.
So do you want, would it help if we tried to find a member? Should I push for that?
That's up to the legislature as the appointing body.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you make a note that we should try to find somebody?
Vivian actually would be a good chance.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
She'd be about the only one. Believe it or not, there are a ton of conflicts out there among most planners can't serve, most municipal officials can't serve, planning board members can't serve, most attorneys have serious conflicts. In other words, there's ethical issues that are involved. And, yeah, so,
Vivian would be
yeah,
great.
we'll watch it. This finger's working. So that's why they're actually having problems finding. To put it very bluntly, the ones around the table are the basically the only ones around here who just don't have those kinds of conflicts to the extent we're not appearing before the county.
Virtually anyone that deals with secra has a conflict of interest.
That's why we had to wait. When he was retired and left the town, that's when Vivian basically realized that he didn't have those conflicts anymore. But that knocks out a whole series of people, because most people do secra. I don't do it in this county. So.
Okay, moving on. All right, so it's 11 members, okay. Anything in the next couple of sections?
Yeah. Section 5.04 says that CAC members have to be reappointed every 2 years, as I read it. And are we abiding by that?
No. I'll take care of it. For me,
Yeah.
I can't take care of it.
No, of course.
Michael, as putting on the other hat, as president of NISAC, you and I could send a letter to every CACs in Suffolk County saying that if they want to participate, they should elect a duly,
That's right. If you'd like to throw some bullet points together and email it to me, I'll draft up a letter and work with you on getting it.
I think we really need to be very cautious. Again, we got badly burned by CACs coming in here and rigging the boat for the mosquito control program.
Yeah.
And the legislature has to step up and do real due diligence on approving any CAC member, because one of the most serious things that we undertook was totally undermined by CACs.
Who showed up for the vote and never came for all the
I
meetings beforehand
understand that,
discussing
and and I lived through that, and I was embarrassed by that. However, CACs have a right. You have a right to screen them. And they don't come anyway, and they don't understand CEQ. Maybe that's my fault, because I haven't had I haven't educated them, but I have enough things to do.
Well, I would say, Joy, if we really push to get CAC participation.
I'm not pushing.
Okay, but I'm just saying, there are provisions in here where members have to be in attendance 75% of the time. And when they come one time in an eternity or one time a year to vote yay or nay on a topic, we have to be able to control that. And they don't know what's going on. They have no context to what's going on. They just come and vote yes or no, and that does not serve the county well.
One other point. I don't know that there's an ignorance level as high as maybe you think. We've had people from other CACs show up. Zeb Youngman, for example, from Southampton. I know, for example, in the town of Smithtown, that my environmental planning director, Russ Barnett, is well aware of CEQ, and he understands how it works. And he's never felt it necessary to have anybody from his conservation board come in. He's occasionally communicated with me. I live in Smithtown, and I've presented those viewpoints. I know Islip, for example, has working knowledge of...
Nancy Manfredonia is chair.
Well, she used to be a member.
Islip. She was, as you know, a CEQ member.
Yeah, she was for a very long time. Some of the other towns out east, for example, East Hampton knows about it, so they're not
East
totally.
Hampton has no CAC.
You sure about that?
They used
I
to.
am
Okay.
absolutely
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, you would know. You would know. But nonetheless, what my point is, some of the towns are aware of it, and it's not as the knowledge level is not as low as you might think. Is what it boils down to.
I think that, though, the council in the past has been very sensitive to CAC or anybody coming from the local, environmental groups, and giving input in the council to the council whether or not they have a vote or not. They're very sensitive. And if we receive information either from the town, planning departments, environmental departments, or CACs, then the council really reviews it, seriously and takes their views into account in their vote,
That's very true.
whether they're here or not.
Jim, I think you are absolutely right. I was only addressing what you're saying, pointing out that I should be reelected every 2 years.
Right, no, that's fine.
That's only what we are addressing.
Okay.
And I said, Mike, and I should tell people of this rule, that you will not seat someone to vote on something in their municipality, which is the only place that they can vote, unless they're a duly appointed representative. That's just what I was talking about.
Okay, Rich?
Yeah, to Larry's point and to what Joy just said, I don't see how one person from a municipality can sway the vote of 10 people sitting around this table.
It happened.
Okay, they only have one vote though.
We got outvoted. I think the final vote count was like 13-4.
Yeah, that's because we had
many.
Yeah, we had 10 of them show up.
But they
Okay.
can only vote in their own municipality.
No, there's also countywide action.
Countywide.
For example, mosquito control, the vector control program was countywide. It affected all the towns.
Okay.
Some of our members stacked the vote by contacting CAC members, and again, the final vote was 13-4, and people were outraged.
When you blame CACs, that it occurred internally from within CEQ.
True.
CEQ members contacted those people to sway the vote.
Well, then you can put into the charter that they have to, come to a certain number of meetings.
Well,
75% of the meetings, if you will,
The next section talks
in order
about
to have a vote.
absence from
But
meetings.
I will tell you one thing, we are screened and we have to have certain qualifications, and that exists in the charter. I checked it out a while back.
As low as they are.
As low as they are, and that's how Larry got on. Okay? Let's call the zinger back. Okay, as low as they are, and even allowing a certain member in, okay, from head of the harbor, what can you say about trash villages? Point is, we're screened. Okay, we got to go through an interview process, etc. That's why it's hard to find members for us. CACs, bluntly, some of the membership, you're not always going to get people who are qualified the way we are qualified. If you look,
Absolutely
no,
wrong.
you have look at the qualifications.
The town board screens and has a resume on file.
That's your town, not my town. Okay, and some of the other towns. I will tell you right now, I'm looking at let's just say I know some other towns where the screening process is absolutely useless and is actually not done in terms of what we do.
All right, let's get back, though, to our bylaws.
Yeah,
This is another argument for another
That's
time.
another
and
argument.
It's not germane to what we're doing now with the bylaws.
Yes.
So, section 5.04 advisory members, B, for CACs, that is fine. Now, Joy will revisit and have her reappointment made, because she's behind the 8 ball, it's not being reappointed every 2 years. Correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on. 505, absence from meetings. All right,
Have that applied to the CAC members.
Yeah.
that's how I feel it should be.
Yeah.
Well,
Add that to that section.
But they're not always going to, if they don't have a project within their
They won't show up.
township,
But, something
Now,
that
are
says
they
why they should be
required?
appointed and should show up anyway.
Them's the vicissitudes of life.
Yes.
Okay?
And it does cover them. Appointed
You guys.
voting
I mean,
members.
but
But as far as the 75% number here, that's taken directly from the charter, and it's not something that we can change.
Requirement.
Okay,
within
that's
here.
fine. Would you have any of the 8 appointed voting members? You want to put 11?
No, that's
in?
out.
That's out.
So Mike,
Brackets are removed.
Yeah, okay.
from what you're saying, does that mean that we couldn't put in parentheses including CAC members?
We could do that, we just can't
Yeah,
change
but that's out of the charter.
75%.
Larry, that's out of the charter.
Okay, but we can then add a sentence?
But we
But
can,
I don't think that's, they don't accept me, and I've been coming since Dave Newton was chair of CEQ. How long was that, Jim? How long have I been coming?
wanna say,
Tell.
Well, you gotta be coming here at least 25 years, Joy.
So that's a special exception. If they aren't allowed to vote,
Why would they come? I understand that. The
Yes.
bottom line is, if we wanted to apply the 75%
good.
rule to the CAC members, we would have to have some type of little tally showing at which meeting, which townships had a project that was in their town that that person could have voted on.
Well-
And then, I mean, it's a tracking
Well,
problem. You know,
if
that's
it's
how
done
money
in
it's getting.
countywide projects,
Yeah,
they
they can.
need to be here. Because in the mosquito control thing, there was a year of deliberations on that. And they showed up for one meeting and overwhelmed the vote, not knowing anything about what was going on. And, it was just totally a bogus operation. So I think
initiated by 2 CEQ members.
doesn't matter who.
Doesn't matter, but it did happen. All right.
So, if they're gonna vote on countywide projects, I think they need to be here 3/4 of the time.
All right. So as it stands now, when you read this, if CCs are also part of it, it would affect them also. Do we really have to add and say this applies to CAC members?
said she was not going
That's up to you guys.
impeach Stiles.
I'm saying it looks like it's all encompassing, because you got rid of,
Appointed voting
you
member.
just said no appointed voting member of the council.
That's true.
They are appointed,
Yes.
so it covers everybody.
Yeah. I would
So
say
there is no need to change this to just single out to make sure that CAC members are here and showing
They are a
up.
voting member in the instances of their town projects and countywide
And
projects.
countywide. So it's okay, it's covering it.
It's covered. We would need to do that housekeeping tracking
Yeah,
when,
if you wanted
when
to.
push comes to shove.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, the way it stands now, we have no approved CAC members
Correct.
on the CEQ.
Yes.
Right.
That
Right,
releases
which means that that actually any vote that Joy has participated in could be challenged to somebody.
Well, we actually,
If it was,
we don't, the vote gets tabulated by CAC appointed members and then the CAC member.
Okay.
They're separated on the votes.
Okay.
With regard to the current language,
And I haven't voted on anything for a long time.
it hasn't been a Huntington
If we go
project.
back to advisory members, it says any person in government
Where are
or
you?
the public at large. That's
504.
5.04A. Any person. So if I live outside of Suffolk County,
Yeah.
I could be appointed as an advisory member?
Yeah, but you don't get the vote as a CAC member if you're not a CAC member. But an advisory person can come in.
From any place.
Sure, well, we
Well, as
entertain
an
the public.
advisory member to the council or a committee.
And only be given voting status on the committee
Right.
by the chair, not voting
the
status
executive.
within the
So the
group.
Historic Trust Committee has members that vote on that committee.
But that is specifically
it.
addressed. That is specifically addressed
Yeah,
in the bylaws.
right.
Because it's a standing
That
committee.
it's non,
You're
right, because it's non-members, and, but here it's just, I can come from Niagara, and, not Viagra, Niagara,
Are you trying to get a Freudian slip, Rick?
Hey,
and be an advisor to this board. Okay?
Yes.
Well, again,
Okay.
that allows for the Historic Trust Subcommittee.
no, no, no,
Uh,
no,
the-
no.
No, I'm just saying it's another way for the Historic Trust Subcommittee to
Well,
come
but
in.
that's a standing committee and
Yeah.
those are Suffolk County residents.
with regard to Section 505 as it's put forward now, I think I've become a lame duck because it doesn't allow for these resolutions to excuse people from absences anymore. And I would need one at this point because my 50% work in Texas continues, and I'm sure I'm underneath 75%.
The same with Dan Pickney, who takes off every winter.
Is that what I did to go for the winter?
No, that's what Dan does.
No,
He
but
comes
Dan-
back when everything
Dan's
blooms.
gone
didn't
4
feel
months
like
of the
it,
year.
Tom. So
If I may speak bluntly for a second, I would not want to see this thing used as a purge or anything like that. If we have to give a written excuse, if it's necessary, I would suggest simply that the chairperson give it to Tom and to Dan. I don't want to lose anybody.
But the language used to say, unless excused by a resolution thereof, which sounded like a reasonable way to recognize some kind of weird situation.
This language taken directly from the charter, and
The underlined
reappointments.
portion
Yes.
is taken directly from
it
the
is.
charter.
Yeah, and that's the mechanism in which the legislature reappoints. Now, I'm not saying
Oh, yeah, you're
they
right.
actually review this stuff when they do reappoint.
No, they
Sometimes have
They ask for the,
you in the
no, they
past?
they always ask for an attendance record for a reappointment.
Tom, actually reading this, it says you can't be reappointed unless you attend at least 75%, and we have to give you a written excuse. But right now, you're
No, there's
serving.
no excuse part anymore.
Yeah, that's very
Okay, but
clear.
absences
No
shall not be
excuses.
counted for the purposes of this. You're okay right now, is the way I'm reading it.
How?
As an attorney.
How do you
Because
figure
it's
that?
reappointed. Remember, the first language drops
When
out.
I go to be reappointed, which
That's
maybe
something
it's going
else,
to happen
but-
next March, I can tell
Oh,
you
yeah,
right now,
as he stands
I
now,
won't
that's
be
fine.
won't be able to achieve 75%. This is like my kid. You know, dude, you're not going to get that 88 GPA. I can tell you right now, because if you get hundreds on all your tests from now until June, you can't get there.
Tom?
I can tell you right now, I can't get to 75%.
Tom, I think
I'm
that
speaking to the chairperson.
I hear what you're saying.
He's
I don't
right.
think it's technically the language may be right. Right now you're okay. For reappointment when you come up, maybe we need to change this, etc. I don't want to see.
It's possible to speak with Legislator Hahn to see if she
Yeah.
can do an amendment for extenuating
Extenuating
circumstances or
Yeah.
something along those
You know,
lines.
a
That's-
letter from the chair.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
You know,
the
work
exemplary work that the person
And you're working on
provides,
environmental
you know,
matters.
For work reasons.
What's
blah,
better
blah,
than
blah.
that?
But it would
When
have to be
calling on
changed
her cell
within the
phone.
charter.
I understand that. But
Well,
maybe that's
I mean,
something we
so,
need to
but
look
this
into.
charter's been on the books all this time, and the legislature has continued to reappoint people,
Yeah.
and they've been sent.
Well,
The
They do-
attendance,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
Right.
it's on the book, so I mean,
Yeah.
if they choose to.
if they choose to
Enforce it.
Enforce
that's
it or
up to
not.
them.
enforce it or not.
Dan
I'm
picked it? I don't know when he comes up. Put it this way, they asked for the sheets. I know when I was, my second reappointment, they asked me,
Well, I had to tabulate the sheet.
okay, and
I guess I
But
was raising
most of the time
raising
they
a
ignore
question,
it.
and the answer is
I know.
effectively, the
unfortunately
wording
I didn't
can't
find
be
one for
changed.
you.
It is
Correct.
from the
It is
charter,
what
it
it
is what it
is,
is.
The charter can be changed.
Yeah.
Tom, don't worry about
But
it.
are we going
Not
to
by this
here's the question: are we going to change the charter for anything else?
No, I wouldn't go there.
I wouldn't go.
I wouldn't touch
Right.
it.
Yeah.
So why should we take this and try and change?
No.
All right, just
the
leave it alone.
charter?
Leave it on.
If you've got 2 or 3
Yeah.
other reasons to go and change the charter and they're really important, you could throw this in. But I would not request the legislature to change the charter
Just for
for
that.
this.
You're
No, it
drawing
opens up a
attention
can
to
of worms.
Drawing
That's what I
attention
feel.
to it.
Don't touch it.
Exactly.
Chris keeps the attendance record for the year for all members, and that gets sent to whoever when
Guys, let's get on to the
Reappointment.
important one. That's 507.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
We're done, aren't we?
No.
All right, keep going. Anybody? Let's go. 506, vacancies. 507, reimbursement. Okay, Article 6, officers.
Yes. I have
Go ahead, Larry.
a concern that, and this is not in the charter, has to do with the election. I would like to see it specified that the election of the chair and the vice chair come from the appointed members. What I'm really asking is that the legislative representative not be eligible
I agree.
to be elected.
I agree.
Nor do I think that the legislative members should be allowed to nominate.
Or to
And-
vote.
No, I don't
Vote.
You let
disagree
him
with
vote?
voting.
Okay. All right.
But my concern is that the way it's currently written, potentially, it has not occurred, but potentially, the legislative member could have far too much authority on control of the
So
CEQ.
no nomination by the ledge member?
That would be my recommendation. No nomination, and that the legislative member also not be
You know,
allowed to be chair.
we went through this a while back, and again,
No, we
Whatever.
went,
no, a couple years ago we discussed this with Vivian very extensively when this issue came up, because you'd raised it previously. And the feeling of a large majority of the members was that you don't bite the hand, if you will, that feeds you, in that the legislator, whoever it is a member of CEQ by charter. You can't strip a vote away that way. I could see maybe with the nomination, okay, but I don't see it being stripped away like that. You can't. I don't think you can do that under the charter. I think it's illegal.
No. He's not taking the vote away. He's saying they can't nominate and they can't serve as chair.
Well,
no, the legislator doesn't serve as chair.
It doesn't say
Doesn't
that.
say that.
All right. So back
Doesn't
up.
say that.
So no legislator.
No nomination and no serving as chair. That's
And-
all he's
Vice chair?
asking.
Oh, okay. That I'm okay with.
Okay.
That I'm okay with.
I mean, I wouldn't, you know,
Why is
again, you're raising a hornet's nest in here.
Yeah.
Technically, if you really want to go, the legislature doesn't appoint the committees until the first of every year. Usually at the end of January. So very oftentimes there is no representative because there's no chair of the EPA committee until they vote for that. So in essence, if the council holds their elections in January, there is no duly representative from the ledge because nobody's been appointed on that committee.
That happened here, though, this year. Kara was appointed before in the general reorganization meeting, I believe January 2nd. Okay, I believe that she was appointed.
She voted.
She was part of it, but she was duly nominated as and voted on as chair of EPA. So it often happens. Sometimes there's a disjoint. But basically,
But that's council workings too. You have 11 people or 10 people on his board. One person's from the legislature, and I think Larry can mention that issue if it were to come up and say that we don't think that's a conflict.
So no, you don't. You would say.
I would just say that that nominations, that the chair and the nominations come from the appointed members.
Okay. Informally, I can live with that.
Going back to what Mary Ann said, having a legislator as a voting member of this committee assumes when that legislator votes at the legislature, they have a preconceived conclusion as to what the vote is going to be, or what their vote is going to be. And if I'm not mistaken, in terms of secret, okay, that is something that somebody could sue on and win.
I doubt that. You're saying basically if a legislator votes here for something and then votes the same way at the ledge, that's independent actions. I don't see how you could really ram that through. Especially to the extent that this is an advisory board.
In as much as they're making.
I don't see it. If this had a vote.
Well, okay, you're the lawyer. I'll leave it with you.
As a ZBA,
I think Rich's point is well taken. I don't think it's clear.
No,
I think it's
it
minutia
is.
because we've never had a case of that happen.
And even if it does, remember, we're advisory.
The trouble is people don't know secret well enough.
So isn't that
It's
all
not until you get an
covered
attorney
that we're okay?
that's suing
Because we're advising them.
that knows it well enough to be able to
Here's the problem.
make that point.
In town law and also village law, if you look at it, this is why a ZBA member cannot serve as a member of a town board, or a town board member cannot serve as a member of a planning board. The restriction on for exactly that reason, because they have line authority in separate areas. And that's where you get into the conflicts of interest. But over here, the legislator is advisory. I wouldn't worry about it. There's no cases on record challenging anything like that.
I don't know, but okay.
The lawyer has spoken.
Yeah, the lawyer.
Hey, I had to renew my registration. I'm still legit.
All right,
So are we putting that language in?
I have a general. You know, we're doing this. In general, I'm against legislation. I think things happen and we get upset and we say there ought to be a law. And so we pass a law. Now, some of the things we've talked about today are things that have happened that have upset us, or things that we think could happen and we wouldn't want to see them happen. But I think codifying some of those emotions and some of those feelings and some of those thoughts is in general a mistake. And I like, it's true that there was a problem with the CACs. there may be a way to deal with that rather than changing this. It's true that we don't now, I don't see it in the foreseeable future, have a legislator who would want to come in and mess with us. Well, I think there are ways to handle those situations without changing the code.
You're saying just go with what we got?
I think what we got is damn good.
I mean, that's why all we did was make the changes subject to charter revisions. That's it.
I think it's very good.
Marianne?
Yeah.
About 99% of the way I agree with you.
However.
On that. No. It's not a however. It's just as a general rule, sometimes you get burned by experience and you have to learn. But as you just said, should we codify everything? No. These are serviceable rules.
Yeah.
Eminently
that's my
serviceable.
Feeling. My feeling is
Except for 507, but that's my personal equivalent.
I mean, if you really want to take the history,
Reimbursement.
I mean, with Vivian was a very active chairperson of the EPA committee, came to CEQs.
Yes.
Same thing with Kara. However, in the past, I mean, most of those people who chaired the committee didn't know who CEQ was and never showed up.
That's right.
I mean, they didn't care.
Well,
That's true.
that was true of Schneiderman, but
He came from time to time.
He came quite a bit.
I know. But he didn't care about it.
But
He
that
didn't
could
love
all,
us.
again, that could all be done within the discussion of the group.
Yeah.
I mean, the group nominates
Nominate.
and can accept the nomination or not.
Informally, I agree with Larry on the nomination thing, assuming we're talking about 602. No
I
nomination.
agree with Larry, but I wouldn't change
Yeah,
this.
I agree with you on that one. Just leave it alone.
Right? I'd leave it alone.
Just make it a, just
All right,
won't
how
do it.
many want to see 602 changed as Larry would like to see it changed? Let's have a vote.
Dead
All right.
silence.
How many are agreeing to leave it the way it is? And we could work it out.
General. If the need arises
Yeah.
in the
Yeah,
future,
We'll
worry
handle
about
it when it comes. Okay, moving on. Article 7, anybody have any concerns? Nope, no concerns.
nothing.
Article
8's fine.
8. Okay, Article 9.
Incidentally, doesn't Joy's concern in
Yeah.
701C
It does kick in.
Yes,
cover her
yes
issue?
it does.
Yep.
No, that's the charter, adding to 239 X and Y.
No, he's talking
No,
about
no,
mailings.
it's
The mailing
mailings.
thing, to be
This covers
included in
the
all
mailings.
general mailings.
701C shall be included in all general mailings.
Page 6.
Page 6.
Actually, I don't think it does. General mailings are the county-wide stuff, et cetera, what she generally gets. We get specific mailings on specific projects.
Either way, you're going to be
It
getting
covers
the
it,
mailing.
but it covers it.
Doesn't need to be addressed here.
Yeah.
It
She just asked
is
him to be
addressed
included.
with Christine and I.
And it is.
Read
We're
the whole
okay.
paragraph. It's basically describes
Yes.
what we get in our packet.
And we'll even give Rich some.
Thank you.
Only interoffice mail, though, for saving postage. Don't forget that.
We gave him everything.
Yeah, I haven't been sending it.
Okay, moving on. Anything more in, nothing in Article 8?
It's good.
Okay, Article 9.
Yeah, Article 9, we've never run it this way. And I've been here, 22 years, something like that. I mean, except for the Historic Trust Committee, I don't see the usefulness of most of Article 9, from the Executive Committee to the standing committees, et cetera. I think we pretty much have agreement around the table on most issues. I mean, we generally vote unanimously, except when we come to view sheds along canals. But aside from that, we do everything sort of ad hoc. The only committee we ever do is we set up a team for an EIS because of quorum problems.
And they changed from EIS to EIS.
Yeah, and they changed from EIS to EIS.
But they could be considered executive committees,
Could be.
formed by the chair.
Well, I don't know.
It leaves a flexibility.
Instead of saying perhaps there shall be an executive
Alright.
committee and 3 standing committees of the council, and describing them, perhaps there shall be an executive committee, and at most 3 standing committees of the council. We're not
Well-
saying we have to have them, but we may
Yeah,
have
or
them.
well, in which case Mary Ann's position is maybe just leave it alone and we'll just
Yeah.
do the way we've been doing it for 20
Just
years.
ignore it.
Yeah, that's what I,
Okay.
that's what I
That's what I'm-
figured,
okay.
rather than
Yeah.
raise a whole.
All right, in which case withdrawn.
Okay.
Now, council staff, I got a big problem with.
Where are you? Wait. Oh, Article 10.
This guy,
We're leaving it alone. Okay.
he lives near a cell tower in Vanderbilt.
Not me.
I don't know about you.
Not me.
A board on somebody's on a board at a museum, they can't be on
No,
staff?
no,
Is
no,
that
no.
the way it is?
It's not me.
Something like that. Oh, that is on there.
I don't know if I believe you.
Oh, yeah, Mule. You got a lot of conflicts
No,
over here.
no.
You got a lot of conflicts.
I got nothing to do with it.
Okay.
All right, anybody else have anything else that they want to bring up about
Go to
this?
sleep.
That's it.
That's it?
So finalize those minor changes,
Okay.
update it to reflect the updates in the charter, and send out a copy to everybody when it's finalized.
Great.
After we vote. You gotta vote by.
Yes, I realize that, okay.
Gloria?
Yeah.
2 quick questions. Actually, I'm jumping the gun. Are we going to move on to the next
Well, the
topic?
next topic is in the environmental assessment form update.
We need to vote on this first.
Yeah, we're voting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Get done.
Motion, fine.
Second.
But we didn't have enough to vote. You don't have a
Oh, we're
quorum.
gonna six.
What are we voting on?
We have 6 to adopt the new bylaws.
Okay, we accept the bylaws, everybody?
Get the bylaws.
Okay.
Passed, motion passed to accept all the
Yeah.
changes in the bylaws.
Yay.
All right,
Yeah.
last thing on here, environmental assessment form update.
Yeah, just a quick
The-
FYI.
Yeah,
Back
the
in,
DEC is changing these, yes.
back in
We're very aware of it.
January, the DEC updated their long and short environmental assessment forms. It's a little beefier. It's really geared towards more intense development projects and mining projects. A lot of it won't apply to the day-to-day things we see here. They don't take effect until October 1st. So in the meantime, I'm putting together a county version of the form with minor tweaks for county-related stuff. And I'll get that out to you guys to review and comment on well before the October 1st deadline. They're also working on a workbook that people that are filling this out can reference to help them, to guide them through the process of the form itself.
Mike?
Yes.
Question on the EAF. Obviously, you're going to, well, my guess would be that you would try and show us where there are differences, because I'm curious about this. I went through this and I sort of went blind after about 5 minutes. I pity you that way. But second off, I'm curious how the Suffolk EAF form would change. Does that have to go through the ledge, or is that just something
No.
internal?
Be internal.
Okay.
Well, it's internal, but there is a section of the charter that references the long form. Do they have to adopt it? That's going to be up to them. But just for our purposes, we're going to have to update our forms to be at least as strict as this. And it's going to be very similar. It's going to be minor changes to accommodate
Because I am looking at this
county
thing, and this
projects.
is longer than what we normally do.
Yeah. Most of it, though, is not going to
Well,
be
it's not
applicable.
that much longer than our long form. In fact, we have some additional requests in there for maps and all kinds of
Yeah,
things that is not
that's-
in the state form.
That's what I'm adding to some,
Cool.
like the topo, the aerials, stuff like that.
Rich?
This is strictly my own opinion, and it's a comment strictly from me. 617.1 in the secret regulations specifically says, I think it's sub B, that the intent and the purpose of secret is to give the environment equal weight with the social and economic issues. It has become, not to the courts necessarily, but to the people who want to invoke secret, because of the way it's written, and because of things like this, these forms, as strictly an environmental law. And that is to say, it's also administered by the New York State DEC. Okay? And after reading through this and looking at the old forms, it's heavily into the environment and doesn't deal with the social or economic issues one whit, if at all. And I guess it's sort of, you know, after 32 years dealing with this, it sort of starts to eat at you. You know, I mean, aside from some historic issues, what happened to the culture? What happened to, you know, all the other things?
You're saying that stuff dropped out?
Well, it's not in there really, or it's more heavily.
It's totally enviro. It's not considering the other stuff.
If not totally,
That's
it's
the part two.
heavy on the environment.
Well, I know a lot of people have always tried to use it on economic grounds and things like that. Do you think that to block projects? Do you think that is where this thing's going?
No, no. I mean they use it almost strictly on environmental issues to block projects.
When I put the county form together and send it out to you guys for comments, we could add sections like that if you'd like to see some more emphasis put on the...
Let me give you one quick example. We had in Green Lawn, the village of Green Lawn, there were 3 drugstores, 3 small private drugstores. I forget whether it was a CVS.
It was a CVS.
It was a
Yeah, it's down by,
CVS decided wanted to come in. And so they filled everything out, and I had made an issue that, wait a minute, you know, now you're gonna compete with these 3 small drugstores. You got this big drugstore that's gonna be selling milk and toys and all kinds of stuff. It's gonna put these guys out of business. Well, that's not a secret issue, they argued.
Yeah.
But it is.
And we went to court, and our attorney did not defend us the way I thought he should have. But right after we lost that lawsuit, another lawsuit, Court of Appeals, was decided that, because we concluded that the CVS should be only 8,000 square feet, and their minimum store was 10,250 or 10,025 square feet. And almost the exact same lawsuit went to the Court of Appeals, and the municipality won. That you could use character of neighborhood and economic competition, okay, as a means of altering a project to comply with secret.
Well,
And I was always a little upset about what happened out here, and didn't get very far. And the other thing is, I don't know whether you know, Walt Whitman Mall, everybody knows it's right across the street from the Walt Whitman birthplace. And if you came directly into the mall at the traffic light, there was a McDonald's. It's no longer there. The double arches, whatever it is.
Yeah,
That
McDonald's. Mickey D's.
But it was covering up a wall, a stucco wall, that had inscribed in it the leaves of grass.
That's McDonald's idea of culture.
And if you went to the side of the building, the south side of the building, the rest of the leaves of grass were inscribed there. Now, I thought it was always very appropriate, the Walt Whitman Wall across the street from the Walt Whitman, having to do with a little culture, you know? And it was obliterated by another sign. And now they're going to obliterate the whole thing by putting an extension on the Route 110 side, covering up, getting rid of those walls altogether.
Well,
And I asked them in the town planning department if that was part of the review. Are they going to do something to compensate for the loss of whatever, in as much as where it's located? If it was located up on Jericho Turnpike, I wouldn't even think twice about it. But where it was located lends to the culture of the town.
you know, Rich,
No, then they didn't even think about it. Nobody even noticed it.
Rich, for the longest time,
I said my piece.
I know, no, you're right about something. Within seeker, that's one of the categories we're allowed to look at, but for the longest time, I'm aware of the court decision you're talking about, but for the longest time, people who built malls and destroyed downtowns with the economic impacts were basically allowed, if you will, to get away with it, because the court system and the legislature were not ruling in favor of allowing character and the economics really to take a front line under seeker. They were looking at it also as an economic document. Okay,
That's fine.
it's maybe something we should add into our document.
Used to was the way the towns
I
made
know.
decisions was, hey, I like that project, let's approve it.
I agree with you. What I'm saying is, should we add more into on our EAF?
Joy, what did you want to say?
I'm curious, is this a final document?
That is the final DEC version, yes.
And I would like to say, NISAM and NISAC are having in June the annual DEC update, which I go to every year, and Gloria has been to that. Any questions you want me to directly ask DEC, and we plan the segments, so we'll do a segment on the review of this. Not the review, because they reviewed for a whole year and it was delayed and delayed and delayed, and they had an awful time with it. But I will convey anything that you
I think it was Mary Ann Hughes who was writing the handbook.
Yes.
And I got a copy of it, and I reviewed it, and I sent her these exact comments. Okay, and she sent me back an email. She's not with the state DEC anymore. And she sent me back an email, says, you're absolutely right, and I'm going to, before the handbook is finalized, we're going to make those adjustments to it. Now, I don't know if that's really happening or not. When I say those adjustments being, that you weigh equally the environment with all the other issues.
They do have the comment and response documentation up on the DEC website.
Do they?
For when they put the forms out for comment. That's up there.
And that was quite a few months ago, because I did respond to the DEC with my comments as my job for what I was concerned with their changes. So, quite a while ago.
The old form on part 2 does have impacts on aesthetic resources and community character.
Yeah, but
I'm not seeing that in this part 2 here. And then maybe we should retain that.
Well, that's where you have the Chinese workers versus the city of New York. Where the city of New York wanted to come in, knock down a whole bunch of tenements and apartment houses and put up a parking garage. And the Chinese workers won their case.
no plan.
Because it had to do with, this is the way we live, this is our culture, this is socially how we get along, and it's not all environment.
Well, I'll tell you my comment right now, which is keep this stuff. It's
Under
in
this number
it's in the
17,
secret regs.
consistency with community.
We should have it, and that's
Proposed
something,
action,
I'll never forget what
land
happened with
use
County
may be different from
County
short
Road 16.
contracts occurring,
We approved,
zoning and
without
land
any
use
EIS, a
So it's
change
in
in
Well,
16, which
just
is
check
Portion
it.
Road, from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. We were
Different.
told by DPW that everybody was in agreement with it, and we had a meeting, and we got blasted for it. And because it would change the community. I'm firmly convinced of that nowadays. And if we had to do the vote again, I would not do it. But these things do have impacts, what we're talking about. You put, from a planning sense, you put a mall in someplace, there's going to be impacts.
I mean, but a lot of those things on the impact of community character, and Richard's right. Secret's supposed to take into account the impacts on the environment. However, the legislative bodies are then supposed to consider what are the economic impacts and what are the impacts on the local community and everything else to make sure that everything's consistent and the project wants to proceed. It's just not one as opposed to everything.
Yeah, but they
The
don't.
problem is that the public perceives SECRA as an environmental law, and it's going to protect the environment. And it's meant to protect the environment,
To a certain extent.
but no more than it is meant also to protect the culture, the
Sociological and economic
and
issues.
economic
Yeah,
issues
right.
as well.
It's something we have to consider in the form.
Well,
Okay? I
Okay.
said my piece.
Okay.
I made my opinion.
Joy, you
We'll
have any other
renominate you and
CAC
reappoint you.
concerns?
How's
Okay.
that?
You know, I'm gonna reach over there and then,
Is there a motion to close the meeting?
motion.
Right now.
There a second?
how's your knee?
The motion, Larry seconded,
You
all
can
in
kick it if you
favor?
want. Oi.
Motion passed.